Go ahead.
All right, we'll start the meeting with roll call.
Brady present.
Emily Cunningham present.
Rachel Pate present.
Excellent. All right, any public comment?
There is not.
Celebrations and recognitions?
We had a great conversation today about maybe switching those two things at some point. Celebration and recognition first, then public comment, so that we maybe don't have really heavy public comments and celebrations. Yeah. Just a thought, like we did one time. So,
Or if people want to be able to celebrate it and then go, if we have a long public comment, at least they could celebrate and then head out if they wanted to. So
yes. Okay. It's not an agenda item, it's just a thought. Okay, so we have 2 district events back to back this month, this week, and next week on a Thursday. You are by no means required to come to either one, but we want you to know that you were invited to both our Hispanic Heritage Celebration, which will be at the City of Waco Multipurpose Center, straight that way, from 5:30 to 7. We're going to have some food trucks. There'll be student performances and displays and things from all levels of our school. And hopefully, I think we're going to have a quinceañera promenade with some ladies wearing their quince dresses, which is going to be fun. They've been highly publicizing that. I keep telling them, oh, my 6-year-old is just going to go gaga over you because you are princesa, and I'm excited. So one cool thing about that is that one of the food trucks is owned by a Rapoport family, and they are actually donating the proceeds from the food truck sales back to the school, which is pretty amazing. So come hungry and buy some elote and some tacos. I know, I just sold it, right? And then next week is Rock the Block, which is what I call our event formerly known as the Back to School Bash, because last year was 107, and I was like, never again. So we're calling it Rock the Block.
Yeah.
It's featuring Sunglasses Raven, which is my new favorite Raven. I actually brought you all a sticker. Yeah.
not just a sticker.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you can get a t-shirt with Sunglasses Raven on it if you come to Rock the Block. We ordered more t-shirts than we ever have before. So I need people to show up and get their free shirt. We'll have pizza and popcorn, snow cones. We have some dads who are going to be offering free haircuts to kiddos, bounce houses. This is all in partnership with the Greater Waco YMCA, who bring out a bunch of fun games. They have double the amount of prizes to give away, which is going to make a lot of kids happy because my kids have never won anything because they only have so many. But last year we had to cancel our end of school party. So they just kept all the prizes, and now there's double the amount of prizes this time around. So double the fun and hopefully half the temperature. I mean, I would take 50s, right?
And our student market is going to be there as well.
Yeah, so Triple Win's going to be bringing out their school bus and a few others in the food truck.
Yep.
So we're trying to make it as much a representation of Rapoport as possible. Is one of our only big district-wide things that we do. We have a couple of community partners coming too. In addition to the YMCA, we have our community center friends here who are coming from Waco Parks and Rec and the Waco Library.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Much fun.
Yes.
Huh?
And thank you, Miss Rachel E. Pate, for modeling your beautiful Rapoport shirt. But if you want more shirts, you can buy them. We have lots of great shirts and a sweatshirt and a long sleeve shirt. Those are all available on our Cheddar Up store, which I'm going to be talking to you about later as well. But I can email you that link. I did email you the information about Rock the Block, but I can email you the direct link if you want to go and purchase. It's broken. I know, yeah. But Jennifer's worked, so it wasn't me.
Mine worked. Yeah, the QR code works.
So you can use the QR code, but just letting you know, this is a limited time only. So like the day after Rock the Block, I kind of planned it that way so that maybe seniors could do a little publicizing while they're there to try to help people buy a few shirts. These all the proceeds from this, on top of however much the base cost of the shirt is, go to support the senior class.
So this like shipping, they just come.
They come here and we have your name on it, and we would probably just bring it to the next board meeting if you want to put on there. Yeah. There's a little place to fill out a form to say where you want it shipped to. There's a Mr. Nason shirt. There's a Mr. Nason shirt. Okay. as of this morning when I looked, we'd sold 50 Mr. Nason shirts, the most shirts we've sold in the whole shop. And he turned 55 today. I was like, we need to sell 5 more shirts, guys. At least.
I haven't bought mine.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one's not on the cute graphic, but I do have some really fun flyers that says Mr. Nason. Well, it says, in the words of my grandmother, you should buy some shirts from Rapoport senior class. So
That's the beginning to lots of different quotes. He's
we
planning
all
on
wear
it.
them underneath the
He's just-
jacket.
That would be funny. That
He's
would
a
be
little
funny.
reticent about it, but everybody is so on board. It's awesome.
Yeah.
We had some alumni buying shirts, like.
It's fun.
Okay, I'm gonna take elementary announcements as well, because Miss Whitlock is at the volleyball game supporting her senior who is playing. So one of the great things that's happening right now at the MacArthur campus, or the 2nd through 4th grade campus, as I call it, because that's its official name, is LEAD, not the LEAD program with the chamber, but LEAD with the police department, which is the Law Enforcement Against Drugs and Violence. They are doing an after school program with 4th graders, and they were recently featured on the news. But the kids are really enjoying it. It's kind of a pilot program that we've kind of gone on the ground floor because of Dr. Page's great relationship with Waco PD, which is right around the corner from that campus. So we just love that they're piloting that with us, and hopefully we'll be able to expand it with Rapoport first before they go to all over with that program. And there's a great news story about that.
And there's 2 students that are interviewed on it. They did such a
speak
good
so
job.
well.
They're
They
so
do.
cute. Yes,
4th graders talking on camera like
Yes.
professionals.
they are great. You should watch the video if you haven't.
Pre-K open house was a new event that we hosted this year. And the idea is for, incoming pre-K parents, it feels like a big thing to drop your kids off at school. And then we kind of let you drop them off the first day, and then we say, hey, it's closed for the next 2 weeks, where your kids get used to school and they transition. But then they're kind of like, I'm not really sure what happens, because if you've ever asked a pre-K kid, how is your day-to-day at school? Good.
Good.
What'd you do? I don't know. Like,
I took a nap.
so,
I
yeah.
had recess.
Did
right?
you eat? I think so. Like, I don't know. Speaking from experience. So this open house was an idea after those 2 weeks are over to have the kids give their parents a tour of their classrooms, of what they do each day. We created this really fun bingo card so that they went around to every little station. They got to learn about centers. They learned about how they go get their lunch. They went to the library, they went to the STEM room, everything that they do during the day. And then they got to take the bingo card home so you could put it on the fridge and say, hey, what was the question of the day today in your classroom? What is one of the centers that you played today? Did you enjoy it? That kind of thing. So they really have a good idea of what's going on in the classroom. We had a great attendance, we had around 30 families, which is about half the grade. They had a really good time. A lot of them had siblings with them. You can see down here in the corner, the right-hand corner, we have one of our middle school students. And I saw the mom, I was like, I didn't even know you had a pre-K. And she goes, yep, last of the Mohicans, no more kids coming out here. But it's so fun to see the siblings support their pre-K students who are learning to write their names and stuff. And we also, in addition to that, did a cute little video that we played on every TV that showed some of the skills that they're learning, like how to walk in line and how to put their shoes on and all that kind of stuff. So the kids loved it because they could see themselves on the video.
Super cute. It was super cute.
The video is adorable.
Yeah. And the families that came all unanimous loved the experiences and having their kids, because the kids led, no adult was leading anything about it. They walked them around and they did the bingo cards and they walked with their parents. It was really neat. Yep.
And the other event that we had at elementary this past month was for Grandparents' Day. This is our 2nd year of doing Read with a Grand Friend, which just means you don't have to be a grandparent to come and read with a child. In fact, we had many people who were grandparents or aunties come and read to groups of kids who they're not related to, but it was very, very sweet time for them to connect. They did read alouds, they did art together, and we had about 75 grand friends come to both elementaries. So just so precious.
Most of them joined with some other grand friends.
They did.
They had multiple kids, or they stayed and read to another group, or they,
Some
whatever.
of them went to both campuses too.
We had another great news story in the mix, especially in the midst of our very hot weather. I'm going to invite up our 7th grade science teacher, Miss McKenzie, who created this opportunity for students. Kylie is one of our many wonderful teachers here at Rapoport. and she represents our science teaching team very well. They did a project in class. I'm going to ask her without giving her any notice to just share a brief
Surprise.
about the project that you guys did in class.
Come right over here. There you go. Now we can see.
So yeah, we were trying to take advantage of the very, very hot weather, and I proposed the question to the kids: can we use the sun to bake cookies? So we constructed these like solar ovens to make it hotter because you can't bake it in 100 degrees. Some of the ovens got like really, really hot, like I think 170, 200 around that range. None of the cookies baked, but it was safe to eat dough, and they ate it anyway. So they had fun.
Yeah. Did some of them melt though?
Yeah, they all
Okay,
melted.
so then-
they were like, yeah, if we left them out a little longer, maybe, but
Yeah.
it went pretty well.
So
That's
a great
awesome.
learning and action moment was also featured on channel 25, which is exciting to again have Rapoport in the news for many ways, but thanks to the innovative teaching opportunities that Ms. McKenzie does in class. Just a great representation of real and relevant learning here on our campuses, and representing what scientists really do and science teachers do, which is to wonder, and in the midst of wondering, experiment and learn. So thank you, Ms. McKenzie.
The reporter at one point said, so did you enjoy this lesson? She goes, yeah, one of the students was like, yeah, it's cookies.
I have the check, but not the people here today to celebrate. But Ms. Pack wasn't able to be here tonight, but Ms. Pack is the pathway teacher, program director for our exercise science and wellness program of study at our high school. That's one of the 4 programs of study that we offer. Part of her work with students in that exercise science and wellness pathway is to host Carter Blood Care every year. There is an opportunity for students to earn a red cord that they can wear at graduation if they give blood during multiple opportunities during their senior year. And so that facilitates that. We also learned, I think kind of backwards, because I don't know that we knew this was going to happen, but that you can earn some money by having really high participation rates as a part of Carter Blood Care's blood drives. So we were presented this earlier this week, and you can see Ms. Pack with a couple of students in that pathway receiving the check from Carter Blood Care for $500. We're working on a plan for how to utilize those funds to benefit students in that program. But we had our first blood drive just this last week on Monday of last week. It was highly successful. We had more students participate and staff on this first blood drive than we had in any of our ones last year, and we have 2 more that are upcoming. We'll make sure those are kind of in the announcements. You're obviously welcome to come and participate in that and help our community, but also help our students as they raise some funds along the way. So a great, awesome opportunity there too. 16 years old is when they can start giving blood. I think they also have to get consent in that. Everything?
Awesome. That's it.
That's our
Yes.
celebration. Thank
So
you.
let's take some pictures. Okay. We're back to the agenda. I apologize for that delay.
Okay. We'll go to the consent agenda items. I'll entertain a motion to in support of all the agenda items, or if you want to pull one out for further discussion. Okay.
I've just kind of left budget amendment on the consent agenda, just in case, so we need one this time.
We have an edit.
Yes, and I have an edit for the August minutes. I was present and not listed on the roll call in the minutes.
So unless there's discussion, that item can actually stay on consent unless there's additional discussion needed for that.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
All those in favor? Any opposed?
And Ms. Milam, that is removing item 3 and adding to the minutes. Okay, just making sure.
We will move on to, well, both our parent and faculty representative is here.
Make sure I didn't have any notes.
Yeah, he, Mason
Okay.
sent one thing.
I have Mr. Nason's right here.
Oh, good.
if you want.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie was looking to make sure she didn't have any notes, but I didn't have any additional notes from the parent representative. Mr. Nason said he would like one thing to be brought to the board, and it was a message that was brought to him when he did kind of the all call. Along with incentives to keep employees and get new employees, would it be possible to consider a 4-day week? I know this was brought up a couple of years ago, and the compromise was a fall break in October. Can this be revisited and discussed? If the money incentive is something we may struggle to provide, maybe this could be a better or different solution. So maybe we could look back on a previous plan that Ellison Sneed, I believe, created and make adjustments as needed. So it was a request to go back and consider a 4-day week again. That was the only note that he had. I think it depends on who you talk to. I've heard mixed reviews both ways, but
Myself 4 days a week, like,
Yeah.
when you're doing these kids on Friday.
yeah.
What are the other two districts that are in the area? Like, do they work into some sort of like Friday resource day?
Mhm.
Like, students come in, catch up, or
Mhm.
they set up something for the students to be able to.
So I actually talked with Faulkner, the China Spring superintendent, the other day, and I said, "So how's it going?" And I expected not awesome things. He said, "It is amazing." He said, "Lots of pushback and like lots of problems leading into it." But he said, now that everybody's adjusted, they do offer a Friday kind of childcare recovery, whatever day. And he said across the districts, the whole district, probably 30 to 60 kids use it. He said, but most of it, they found families. So the kids will go to somebody's house on a Friday and they partner or share, or everybody takes one Friday a month and they swap back and forth. But he said, all in all, they've had really good feedback. So I would struggle to say that our family demographics for Rapoport, the family demographics for China Spring are likely dramatically different. And so, I mean, if that's something the board wanted to consider, I would definitely recommend we do a lot of focus grouping, asking our families, because I would not want to create undue burden on our families. The other thing that is an issue that he did mention is anytime you have a snow day, a rain day, a testing day, there's a lot of learning in that day and it goes away. So you have to have every single day and every single minute, because each day is worth more learning, you know. So
the district this calendar year already revamped the start and end times.
Slightly, just by a few minutes.
So
Mhm.
take away the 15. I'm not negating what staff are looking for, that there has to be a happy middle between families
Mhm.
and staff. Well,
Mhm.
is what it sounds like the whole staff should.
Yeah. So when,
minute-wise for the year.
well, China Spring's first day of classes was August 1. So they brought the beginning of the year up considerably to help compensate for some of that. With all of the days that we've put into the year, including fall break, like we have a lot of time off during the year. It's just not spread out over every week. And so we could move it up and start in August, which means PD would happen the last week and a half of July, which we know what July felt like when we asked for a couple of days in July. But it wouldn't take a dramatic change to the start and end times of a day. It would take a dramatic change to the start and end times of the year and longer breaks. You wouldn't really have as much room to move like a fall break or to flex very much like winter break or, you know, things like that.
Like fall break would go away.
Fall break would go away.
Teacher work days
Those would all go away. Those would become, so there are some days when they are just closed. There are some days when it's a staff day. So we could mirror that. I don't know that so much would be the impact as it would be on our families. A pretty deep one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also the teachers are wanting professional development days that don't eat into other days.
That's what we put in last year and the year before. We built in quite a few teacher protected days and data days and quite a bit during the year. We have a pretty progressive calendar. It's not 4 day a week, but every month we have one to 2 weeks that are 4-day weeks already. So I feel like it was kind of like a middle ground, but I'm happy if the board wants us to consider that. We usually look at calendar in January, February. So if that's something you want me to look at, you could tell me then, and we could go back and you could tell me now. I'm not a fan. Yeah, I feel like we already struggle getting our kids here all the days that we need and having them for all the minutes that we need. They did say that there's not a dramatic uptick in attendance. So it's not like, oh, I only have to come 4 days. I'm going to be there every day. They haven't noticed a big improvement in student attendance. But I struggle to see how a 4-day week would benefit our families. Right now, we can plan it out. We can flex a little bit. We still have a lot of time our families have to deal with, right? Where kids are not in school. But I feel like it's easier to manage a stretch of time than it is every single week, what you're going to do with that. But I'm happy to consider it if the board would like to. The calendar is one of the board's decision. I usually do a lot of staff feedback on the calendar, and they kind of vote on it. We give them options, we get feedback, we try different things.
I would prefer to have family feedback first, because the staff asks for more professional workings.
And we did that.
They want affected by having to also teach. And then streamlining, revamping the first school students.
Right. Yep.
And additional time off. It's 1 to 2 days a month.
Yes.
And then fall. So the
Right.
last 3 years,
Every year.
from a parent to board, I can see the transition. There has been improvements in what the staff is asking for. I think this is adding on.
I would like that the region was suggested and some understanding you would have to start August 1st.
With students. So staff would come back in 6 to 8 days before that. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that was the pushback.
Yeah.
July 29th. So
What I can do is do a quick like poll, and I'll do one of staff and one of families.
Yep.
I do that, right?
Yeah, I think something staying within the scope of.
That's what I was wondering. We could just do it. Yeah. So we could do a poll, SJ, we could do a poll for one for staff and one for families. And just find out, would you be in favor or not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it says why, comment one way or the other.
We have not done a whole lot of polls, but I'm gonna talk to you about the statistics of the reach of parents for tonight, so. Yeah.
Let's come in.
Wouldn't be interested in posing the question to everyone unless we're willing to consider it.
Yeah,
I personally wouldn't want to have you guys and your staff do the amount of research and work that it would be to get us the information we would even need to make a decision on that. If you're not really interested.
Yeah, I mean,
So
if our families were to come back and say, absolutely 100% go for it tomorrow, I think we could talk about what that looks like, right? And I could find a way. Now, if our families come back and 20% of our families said this would be devastating to my family, I can't support going through that, because ultimately we are here for the kids who are byproducts of the families. We have to have happy staff to do that. But I appreciate that you've recognized that we've made some big strides in trying to.
I think the survey just helps us determine if we consider it or not. So,
well, I guess in my mind, the survey gives everyone a
Opening.
yeah, and so now we have one person that wants us to consider it. What if we have many more staff who want to consider it now, and then we say, well, no, this isn't good for families, and they're like, it's super good, and then it just is almost.
Yeah.
Can create a controversy when we were never really, it's not something in the immediate agenda.
So I would say, this is what I would say to the board as your superintendent, right? You guys hire me to do whatever it is you tell me to do. If you tell me, all right, I really need you to go consider, can you make a 4-day week work? I can go figure that out. If you're asking me, I've heard from some families anecdotally that would be a huge burden. Same thing that district heard before that they went to a 4-day week, right? Would people find a way to make it work? I'm sure our families are resourceful and they dig up from their bootstraps all the time, right? But that would really need to be a board decision.
I guess we might want to consider something that decision. I mean, it affects both staff and them, they have an input.
Well, we're not saying that.
Yeah.
We're saying we don't want to put this out there as soliciting feedback without really thinking carefully about what that question would pose.
If we are truly open to both.
Yes. Dr. Ellis, do you have an opinion about this from a staff's perspective? Is this something you've heard before? Because right now we're going off of one comment.
I would say it was just over a year ago to a year and a half ago at most that we had this discussion in some depth. Ms. Whitlark and I both had numerous conversations with staff members in depth about the calendar, this being one of the things that we talked about. And sought feedback. We had a district team that met and discussed it. We did not do an official poll of families. We mostly kept it internal, but it was, I would say, more than just a up or down, vote from staff. It was some in-depth conversations. And it was a pretty mixed bag. I think on the secondary campus, there was more excitement about it. And I think some of that comes from the idea of feeling like a longer day and more frequent time off for students wasn't going to be all that detrimental to student success. That older students would be able to handle that, and older students' families are probably easier for them to have their children at home unattended. So the secondary campus vibe that I got when I talked to probably 10 or 12 people in depth about it was very positive across the board. I think this Whitlark's was almost the complete opposite. Elementary staff were not very enthusiastic about it and already felt like this is just previous feedback, which we could seek again. They felt like students would not benefit from having longer days and missing out on whole days of instruction. There were some pretty significant impacts to the way their curriculum mapping is already set up, the 5-day week increments rather than 4-day weeks. There would be a big shift on the elementary side. And then I think there were pretty significant concerns about childcare and student needs. Like Dr. Newman said, I watched all the things unfold in various schools, including China Spring, and saw lots of upheaval as it was starting. And then was pleasantly surprised by how positive the feedback has been once it's gotten started. It'd be hard to say. I think it is wise for the board to have the discussion you're having tonight to say, before we just kind of throw out a poll, let's have a concerted discussion here on whether we would do this or what threshold it would take to make this a serious discussion, because you're going to have an uneven response.
And for me, what would make it a serious discussion would be Dr. Newman's enthusiasm for it. And we don't seem to have that at this point. And if that changes in research and when you see success in other schools, if you think that that's something that brings back, then I think we would maybe want more discussion. But at this point, I'm not very interested in what other people think if you're not very interested.
Yeah, so one of the things that's yet to be seen is the academic outcomes, obviously with the delay in accountability and those scores coming back. We don't have data yet to look at really the impact of the newer 4-day weeks. Now, there are some districts in Texas that have been year-round schools, and they've had 4-day weeks, and they do a month off in winter and a month off here and a month off here. And so they kind of flex their year around that. So there are a few that the community has bonded to a 4-day week for years. But I think the data is still out on whether it's going to impact an urban school's accountability when you don't have smaller bites of school more consistently all the time.
I would worry about what Tyler just mentioned about the elementary. That instruction is more vital because that's their peak learning.
That's the basics,
versus older high school kids.
Now, what would not work is to go one schedule on one level and one schedule on a different level. That would be a nightmare. I would suggest that the board consider it. And if you choose and you want me to put it on it as an agenda item in the future, then we can do that. We can develop a plan for that. If you decide you want to do like a current events poll, right? Some districts out there are considering, do you think we should, right? We could do a current events poll that's not, would you or would you not be in favor here? It's, do you think the board should even consider? We could do that. But it may also be that the board needs to go ask questions and look at other schools and talk to other families.
I think we do need more
I also think we haven't even gone through a year on this particular calendar alteration.
Yeah.
So that the data may be internal just to see what this year was like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last year was the first fall break year, and we had a higher retention than we've had before. So, and the first teacher productive days were the fall break. And we had more teachers stay. So that was good, right? Time off and time to prepare was good. So this year will be a little more organized professional development in the fall, a little more intentional, providing more mentorship, more specific mentorship training and experience opportunities throughout the year. So you're right. We haven't even been
So,
through.
yeah, in my mind, before consideration of next year's calendar in January, just like sort of an open kind of what did you take away from this year's calendar so far?
Okay.
And then if you wait another year, if you have the opportunity to do some external data collection, maybe with some actual academic performance data.
Yes.
But then you're not. Yeah, I really don't like the idea of. As a parent, I've filled out those polls on calendars all the time, and once in a while, maybe your choice gets selected, but when it doesn't, you're like, well, nobody listens to me or something like that.
So I care anyway.
Well, I think it's anxiety inducing, right? Like, is this something they're talking about? Do I need to start making plans?
Exactly. Yeah. It would be a disruptive kind of thing.
I think if it's presented correctly, but a lead-in, this is not an action item, it's just feedback. So you at least don't have just the board coming and saying, this is what we're doing. This affects district, staff, employees, and families, not just those of us in the room who don't work here. Some of us may have children here, but I still think that community voice still needs to be heard.
Before any deep discussion is had. Yep. The question is, does the board want to move to deep discussion? Okay.
I'm open to it.
I'm
But there's gonna be stuff that needs to go away.
Yeah.
Just like making sure, like there's.
Yeah, I think we don't know necessarily if that's even a popular opinion. You know, it came up in a meeting, but as you said, this is only our second year.
And it was one comment.
Yeah, of doing the fall break. And I heard from a teacher that said she loves the fall break because it's at the time of the Heart of Texas Fair and Rodeo. So all the kids get to go and parents get to be out. But I also agree it's in the framing. Maybe not what you don't like about it, but how do you feel about our current schedule? Like how many people enjoy having the breaks, having the time that they get in their classes without kids, and any suggestions that may be short of changing the entire schedule. Because he mentioned other incentives in lieu of, can we do this in lieu of? So what are some of those other things that maybe teachers may be interested in that aren't necessarily changing a school day? But I think, again, we don't want to talk about changing the calendar on anyone's mind without seeing if they really even have a problem with it. So
Kind of if it's not broke,
yeah,
don't fix it.
like if they may actually really like it and prefer it. I do as a parent.
That's a great poll question too, that we could put out there is, what do you think about the current calendar?
Could we postpone this until calendar season seems in line with that? And then discuss a polling then, or would that be too late?
It'd probably be a 3-month process, which I know sounds funny, but the board would decide to poll, then we would poll, then we would get the data and discuss it, then make any edits to a draft calendar, put that calendar out to the community, then adopt that. So it'd be kind of a 1, 2, 3. As long as we plan for it, I think that's fine, which would be a December, January, February. Yeah. Yeah.
Just one question about attendance for every student. I mean, they're not here. There's no funding from the state. If you're 4 days, what happens to day 5's funding?
So day 5's funding bridges into the minutes, so that we don't get funded on days anymore. We're funded on minutes. And so it's the same number of minutes just packed into 4 days, which means if you miss 1 day, you're missing more minutes. Yeah. Yeah. And we need our kids here all the time anyway, because we're already closing gaps and trying to change trajectories, right? So that, I think that's a little bit of elementary's like, wait, I'm gonna have less time. You won't have less time, but you'll have longer stretches of time. So, okay, I will put this on December. Yeah, no motion needed. It was just from a report. So that was discussion from a report. So yeah, no action needed.
CFO.
It's kind of like the quiet season, right between hiring season and audit season. So I'm just enjoying quietness for the 2 weeks. And then I think my audit is scheduled to officially start the last week of October, which is usually earlier than it usually is, but that's great. That's good. Yeah. So, yeah, just August 31st is the office week, so and everything posted and cleaned up and all of the things that moving journal entries. I think it's going to go well. I don't foresee any big problems with it, so fingers crossed. I don't think it will. I feel good about it.
Thank you.
Should be great. Yeah, it should be great. Okay, so I have a couple little things, and then I have asked SJ to come and give you a marketing communications update that will be all within that kind of superintendent report. So a couple of quick things. I'm going to be sending you out links for your annual open meetings and Public Information Act training. You can zip through that in about an hour and a half total, sometimes even faster as you're looking through it, but there is a certificate at the end. I do need you to save that and send it to me. That's how we'll document that you have that. So look for those links in the next week. I'll send those to you. And then we will also need to set a date for our board training for the year. Last time we kind of let it roll a little bit to the spring. I'd like to really try to do that in the fall before we get into strategic budgeting and all of that sort of stuff. So I was wondering if you guys had a big preference. We try to do it at a board meeting, so we keep the agenda a little bit smaller, and then we put on the board training kind of right after dinner, that sort of stuff. I was wondering if you guys had a preference for whether it was November, December, or January's meeting. January?
November or December would be verbal.
I would say that hopefully the audit is done and ready to be presented at the December meeting.
Okay.
So that usually is a little bit back.
Okay.
But it would happen. It's one night. It's not multiple nights.
No, it's one night. So what we're able to do is new board members will have an additional time that we meet, but returning board members is 6 hours, which includes 2 hours that everybody will do, and then 4 hours. So what they typically do is a 3-hour, 2 to 3 hour discussion with us, and then an hour of like independent study of materials that you review. So yeah, we do it in an evening, but eat dinner. We're done here by 8:30 to 9 that night.
December, January.
Okay. December, January, December may be long with an audit.
Before the Christmas break or during the Christmas break? Before.
I think it's the 17th.
Yeah, it's right before we leave. Yeah. In January. Okay.
So maybe November.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't care.
I've got our awards banquet and 2 awards I'm receiving. So it's like something happening almost every week in the evening.
So, yeah, I'm thinking maybe December, and then we'll work with the audit firm, and we'll just keep that agenda as absolutely light as we can.
Please not the same night as the audit. That's all.
Yeah.
We might even be able to put the audit in for the credit, because we can do financial discussions in with that. So we might even be able to get credit for the audit review within the board training. We probably could.
Yeah.
I'm great at being efficient on things. So, okay, let me look for December. Let me try for December for board training. Okay.
How long did you say was the time?
Probably done that night by 8:30 or 9. So if we start at 5, we feed you dinner and do the training. All right. Then the other thing I just wanted to share is we've started something new. So we have lots of letters. So PFE on MTSS, right? So we have a multi-tiered student support system. Multi-tiered system of student support. Anyway. It's all about the students. And in that, one of the things we do is we meet as an administrative team and we look at data. We meet as a teaching team and look at data, as campus teams and look at data. Huh? Oh yeah, yeah. So we meet at lots of different levels and look at all sorts of data. So recently we have gone past academic data and started looking at other sort of indicators of student success or family success or engagement or things like that. So we also track behavior incidences. We track attendance. And this fall, we've added in parent and family engagement. So we're tracking when parents attend activities and giving kind of a nod of credit for that. And this last week, we went through our first kind of MTSS review for the fall. And what we've identified is a lot of our students that are struggling with attendance, that are struggling with grades, are also struggling with family engagement at campus. And so it's giving us an opportunity of where do we prioritize and where do we dig in first? And so I think it's going to be interesting data as we move forward from that. And so now that we're starting to create a baseline at the campus, I'll be able to pull data for the board reports as we walk through on some of those annual data reports. I'll be able to pull that in and we'll be able to look at that as well. So I'm excited about being able to really layer on some of the data that we already have and look at into family engagement, into behavior, culture, climate kind of activities, attendance, and then also the academics. So that's just an update, a heads up that I wanted to give you guys to that as well. We can move on. SJ is the next one. So as soon as she pops back in the room, then I think she had to tend to kids maybe for a moment. But as soon as she comes back in the room, then I'll flip over because she'll have the next presentation from that. Everybody good with that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have board committee reports. Board committees met almost completely. So anyway, super excited about that. So I listed them in no specific order. So finance audit. Which board member wants to lead the summary?
Yes, I took all the notes. So you want SJ can go and then I can.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, SJ, are you ready? Okay. She's like, anytime. Okay. I don't remember what buttons it makes it go.
Can we hit okay? Because it's really driving me crazy.
What's driving you crazy?
Says,
oh, yes.
I use every part of the slide, okay?
Okay. Remind me how to make it go for you.
It is under that. So
see, I can't. Everything's there.
Hit present. I know you got a lot on here, and then full screen.
Present. Go. There you go. Okay.
Yay.
Do you want me to be your van and white, or do you want to click?
You can be my van and white because I have my slides here so that I don't miss anything.
Ready.
Okay. Wow. SJ Menifee, Director of Communications, celebrating 3 years here. 3 full years at Rapoport. Thank you to all of my friends on the board who liked my work celebration on LinkedIn. That was lovely. We're going to talk about LinkedIn tonight. And this is sort of just a quick overview of communications, kind of some wins from last year and where we're looking to this year. And I really would love feedback as well. So this is not meant to be a fully one way. I am going to go over a lot of stuff though, so I don't want to bog down the meeting either. So communication areas of focus. This is just sort of helpful for me to think of, like, these are like in order of like first, second, third, fourth, as in order of importance. All of them are important, but what I consider to be, and what Dr. Newman and I have discussed as my sort of work goals have always been, number one, to increase effective communications. That one stayed the same between with our audiences, which our audiences are our families, our staff, our students, and then external partners, right? So internal audiences come first with communications in my position. Number two is to celebrate Rapoport staff and students and focus on inclusivity in all of our communication messaging. I don't want anyone to ever look at anything that we put out there and make them feel like they're not included. We want everyone to feel included in the way that we communicate as much as possible. If they're not on our no media list, I want every kid to have their photo on our website, on our social media, everywhere. And I always ask them, if I come in, especially middle schoolers, I come to a middle school classroom, they're all like, "Miss, no." I'm like, that's fine. I am not here to make you feel bad. I don't want to take your picture if you don't want your picture taken. But I want you to know that if you want your picture taken, I'm here for that. I want to celebrate you. And it doesn't mean that you're the top athlete. You're a student at Rapoport Academy. You should feel like a rock star. Yeah. You're a teacher here. You should be celebrated for the things that you're doing. So that's my number 2 goal. And number 3 is to support all the internal initiatives and things that are happening here and just like make them the best that they can be, right? Make sure that that's kind of partially number 1, but it's like many things. So I always like those, the number 1 and 2 are my things, and number 3 are like everybody else's things that I just try to make better. With high quality communication pieces. So, making sure that it's easy for our
Like the
families
core
to
values poster.
understand.
Yeah.
Our core
See the core values poster right there on
We're
that
about
wall?
to have it all translated into Spanish as well,
Mhm.
because we got some parent feedback on wanting to have more, specifically our core values in Spanish. So, thanks to Canva's magic translate button, and some help from our Spanish speakers to make sure that nothing was spelled wrong. Later, if Dr. Ellis has time, he has a funny story about Spanish translation that you would not expect. And then 4th is to raise awareness about Rapoport Academy in the greater Waco area and to monitor our reputation. My hope is that if we do 1, 2, and 3 well, number 4 is starting to take care of itself, because we're sharing all the great things that are happening here. We're sharing it broadly. Our people feel loved and seen and celebrated. And then that just ripples outward. So we don't spend as much time, as much as I love to get reporters on campus to cover really cool things. It cannot be my number 1 focus, because then I'm not doing the job that Dr. Newman's hired me to do.
Well, like she said, she's busy creating over 1,000 reporters that are Rapoport Academy reporters, because it's our kids and it's our families and it's our staff, and they are reporting out.
Yeah. So I'm trying to move that direction though. And we've had some really great reporters that have been awesome at being easy to, sometimes I'm like, oh shoot, this is happening tomorrow. I should have told somebody else. Even our grand friend day, I'm gonna take this water. I think the Trib is gonna print some of my photos. They asked for them and I sent them cut lines, but they're very short staffed as well, but they gave me some great feedback and said that they would publish them. So sometimes, I've been building those relationships, and news reporters, they're changing all the time. So it literally could be a full-time job just to do media relations. And I don't think that's what serves the Rapoport community best. Okay, so communication wins. I thought about it later. I sort of said glows and grows because that's very education speak. And I said wins. For 23, 24, I have a bullet list, and then we're going to go in depth in some of these. So these are all communication things, even though you might not know that they were. Every Raven staff awards were a project of mine that I launched this last year. Working on consistent new staff welcomes, creating a Google Calendar for menus, which was a pet project of mine that just makes me very happy every time I see it. Increased fundraising with Cheddar Up. Academic strategic plan design, which I believe all of you received a print copy of, so I'm not going over that part again. Improved parent square data to try to get us to where we are now, which is 99% contactability. And then continuing to clean up that data. Now that it's clean, we're noticing the things that need to be fixed, but that's great because we're actually getting feedback from parents. Increased enrollment and overall hiring, I think partially, I don't have exact data on this, but partially due to positive perception of Rapoport in the community, which is that ripple effect, right? When families are happy, they tell other people, Rapoport's a great place to send your kids. So, and the same way with staff. So speaking of staff, increasing staff recognition, we launched Every Raven Staff Award last year to fill in a gap of recognizing employees from the district level. A lot of school districts have a specifically district recognition program beyond just your teachers of the year. Something that allows community members, families to submit, open submission, kind of like a shout out, but a little bit bigger than that, where we're saying these people are awesome. We're so thankful they work here. We want to recognize them. So we were presenting it monthly, and we give it out to 35 employees last year. Pretty amazing. What that entails, and I know that I've presented who the winners were each month last year, is that they get a nice certificate that has what was written about them in the form, letting them know specifically how awesome, maybe several people think they are too, because some of them I had to print a couple extra pages because they had several submissions. We went around and around about whether or not to buy a cute swag item or something that they would get. I really liked the idea of custom socks because I have a friend in Oklahoma who does a knock your socks off award. Then I was like, you know what? Teachers kind of need cash. So they can buy their own socks. they're gonna donate these to Goodwill, and someday I'm gonna see them there and be like, why did we buy socks? Because they were close to $20 per pair. Like if you get nice branded socks, they're expensive. So with a sponsor from TFNB who will sponsor again this year, we were able to just give them $20 bills. And the feedback's been great on that. I did kind of ask around and was like, hey, was that weird? Because I kind of like decided it really quickly, but it's a couple gallons of gas. It's a lunch out. It's some groceries, you know. So we decided to go ahead and do that again this year. And anyone can nominate a staff member. Ms. Hill has nominated a staff member. So challenge Throne board members to nominate somebody if you have time. And those are open. We have decided to go to quarterly instead of monthly because it was a lot to coordinate. So we're going to continue it. We're making it a little smaller pool of people, but we will be celebrating. The idea is that we do 5 awards each time. So it's one from each campus and one from the district, because oftentimes, and not to pull it out as a district person, but oftentimes campuses have great initiatives, but then there are people who fall through the cracks, like our cafeteria people are district employees. Technically, they may work on a campus, but they're technically a district employee. So our amazing facilities guys, all district employees. So we want to be sure that they're included in that pool of people who get recognized, even if they maybe are not a teacher. Okay, so along with that is the consistent new stuff welcomes, which I'm sure you've all seen, sharing bios. That was a really great collaboration between Dr. Ellis and Ms. Whitlark and I, where we're just being more proactive about asking for that information up front once we've hired someone. We want to think of it as that like a customer experience. It's an employee experience, right? Like when you're hired, we want you to know how dang excited we are that you're coming to work at Rapoport Academy. It shouldn't be like, cool, we'll see you in July, and then you hear crickets. You know, we want them to feel excited. So one of the ways we do that is to share their bios. We've had a lot of great responses from families, from employees that they're going to be working with on those campuses. Like our elementary teachers are really great. They just do it on their own. There'll be like 10 people commenting, we can't wait to work with you. Like, who doesn't want to go work at a place like that? Like, they're so excited for you to come work with them. And then the other thing that I do that people don't see is that I do email each one of them individually when their bios are going out and let them know, hey, welcome to Rapoport. Follow us on social media. Add us as your workplace on LinkedIn. We shared your bio. We want you to share it with your family members and your friends so that they know that you're coming to be a teacher here. So those are all like scheduled, and I grab their personal email addresses before they become employees. And sometimes we still have some that we're working through at the very beginning of the year, but I get them all done. And those go out on our website as well. So they kind of live in several different places just to celebrate the fact that we've, made this hire and let them know that we're so excited they're here.
The news.
I know this is such a small thing, y'all, but if you have picky eaters at home, it's not a small thing. So this is a takeaway that I got from the National School PR conference that I went to last summer. I went to a really great website session, and one of the guys shared about how very easy it is to quickly format something in Excel to make it uploadable to Google Calendar. And now I feel like a wizard. So we added it to our homepage last year. It's also a whole page for menus, and you can subscribe to this calendar and add it to your phone and look at it when you want to know what's for lunch today. And for your picky eaters, if you need to pack their lunch, because as you can see for today, because that's a screenshot from today, my kids don't eat meatloaf. I love meatloaf, y'all. My kids won't eat it. So I packed 3 lunches this morning, but it's good to know because it's hard on families. If their kids aren't eating, then they're not, academically behaving well. They're not behaviorally behaving well. Yeah. It's hard. So just making that a little more accessible. I was hoping it would also automatically translate when we do Google Translate, thinking because it was Google, but it doesn't, sadly. It's still available as a PDF, but I can't tell you how many times I downloaded those PDFs before this existed, and with Zoom in, the same idea exactly. So it's just a little user-friendly update. I do this every month. I copy and paste every single menu item into an Excel sheet, and I've gotten it down to like 12 minutes. I'm like, I'll just put on some music and be like, I can do this. Every time I do it, it's worth it. And Ellen Filgo, who's been a parent rep before, is even smarter than me. She set up her Alexa to tell her boys what's for lunch today by typing in the Google Calendar.
Wow.
And she's always like, thanks so much for making sure it's updated. I'm like, I'll keep doing it. So it's just like one of those little things that just makes me happy. If I had to look back on the wins that I thought were a win, that was one of the things I would highlight. This is a crazy number, Katrina. I just went ahead and added up everything. It doesn't have reporting so easily. I went through and added up each one of the cheddar ups I think that we had last year, y'all. I was updating this presentation from 2022, which is the last time I gave it, and it was like, I don't know, maybe $5,000 that we raised on cheddar up. And now we were up to $17,000. Right now there's like 12,000 sitting in there because we haven't changed banks yet, right? And that's just one of the initiatives I had when I first started, as just from my parent perspective, was like, make it easy for parents to buy Rapoport stuff. Like they want stuff, they want swag, they want to be proud of their school. They want to make, they don't want it, they don't have cash. I don't have cash. So this cheddar up was just one of those things that was going to make that happen, right? To allow people to buy things online, but it's turned into donate for teacher and staff appreciation, donate towards band camp, right? Clubs being able to do fundraisers and sales online. We bought a point of sale so that if they want to sell things in person, they can take cards. It's very user friendly. It's really easy on the back end as far as pulling it into the right bank accounts and making sure that it's tied to the right budget codes and things like that. Yes. So this is new. I just made this one today, y'all. I know. Well, so we recently upgraded to like the mega awesome everything bells and whistles version, because with raising $17,000, we could afford to pay the $300 or whatever it was for the year to have all the things. So that means we can do ticketing now, which I'm very excited for proms and dances and movie nights. One Act Play tried to sell tickets last year and it was a bit of a mess. We did use cheddar up for it, but this will actually generate a PDF ticket kind of a thing where you can scan it like you would normally.
So it's right there at the bottom.
But so at the bottom, and I have a few things that I was going to open. Well, come back. Oh, yes, please. I don't think so.
No, that is. Hang on a second.
Oh, because that's a separate computer screen?
Yes, that is a separate computer screen, but let me make sure. Nope, audio's on. That's correct. Yeah, okay, you need to open this.
I was just wanting to open that, yeah. So the other part of the big upgrade on cheddar up is that we can have, instead of multiple individual pages, we can have a landing page that has any open shops or fundraisers that we have. So that's like a one link that has everything, that one-stop shop that we can put on our website and publicize, instead of like trying to make sure that individual links are correct, which I'm very excited about. So I got in there, was playing around, I was trying to do the reporting and pull some numbers. And then I was like, oh, look at all the things I can do now. Like I can, and it's all branded for us too. So it doesn't have the Cheddar Up logo on anything anymore. It has the Rapoport logo. And anything that you bought should also show that on the statements for your cards, that you bought it from Rapoport. So.
Got a question. Oh, was that your question about the mute? Oh, I thought you had a different question for her. Okay, that's great.
So that is raps.mycheddarup.com.
Wait a second. I'll get right over there. There we go.
Okay, so that's Cheddar Up. Parent Square. So I think it's been 4 years. Has it been 4 years? It was before me, and I've been here for 3 years.
It was the year before you came.
Yeah. So 4 years is not wrong.
It's when we piloted it.
Yes. So after using it for 4 years, we're now really working towards full district-wide integration and reaching every family with Parent Square. Like we were using kind of a tenth of what it does, and it was great for what it was. But there's a lot more that they do, and there's a lot more they've added. They're constantly adding things to this. It's really cool. It's a company that's owned by a mom who was like, I went to school and my teachers gave me 5 different ways to communicate with them depending on the grade level my kid was in. And she was like, I'm a computer developer. I'll just make a new one. And they've made so much money. They keep buying companies. So they bought Remind last year. So now they have all of the functionality of Remind. I'll tell you later that they bought the website company that we use. So we're switching to a Parents Bureau website. So what they're doing is working. But we're working on one of the things that we had problems with it. We were reaching about 77% of families last year. If you looked at this data sort of dashboard, and I have like,
which was still better than emails,
absolutely,
but not enough.
This is super granular. You can see every time a parent has opened a communication with you, if they've ever clicked on anything. It's like kind of like email marketing, where you really have a handle, and someone says, I don't ever get any emails from you. And I'm like, I can literally see that you opened it like 3 times. I'm so sorry. I think you just don't read the emails, which is a different thing. And if they're legitimately not getting them, we want to change it to the email address that they use. But it goes on and on. I can see how many messages are sent and from whom, and how many, posts are read by people. Who sends the most posts? Let's see, Tyler Ellis with 36, followed by Kendra Tolliver, our pre-K teacher extraordinaire. She's coming at you. She's got 35.
Whoa. Look at that. He's just doing another one.
Right now. So
let me see that. I'll just pass it around.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of these to pass around if people wanted, if you had questions, or if you wanted to look more deeply into analytics. But we always had trouble changing the year over too. We had these, part of the reason why we had 77% contactability, which is a hard word to say. I'm not entirely sure it's a real word. It kept getting underlined by spell check. Was like, I have a kid who's in middle school, but when we had started with Parents Bureau, she was in elementary, and when she switched campuses, her stuff moved, but then she had another profile. So she had like a little ghost account that was like elementary EV and then middle school EV, but only one of them was a real account. So it was like, it didn't have the parent contact information, but for some reason it still had the student. So without the contact information, it was coming up as a bounce, right? So we needed to do a big data switch out, and it was scary and a bit painful, and it broke a bunch of things that we had like done as workarounds to make it work, you know what I mean? But we weren't using it the way we were supposed to. So we did that over the summer, and now we're reaching 99.1%, which just means that we have, 7 families that we need to track down email addresses for. And then we do have some people who are like, you had only one of your kids. And I've had a few other people who are like, I have 3 kids at the district and I only see one of them. So, but we are actually able to fix those things because some of it has to do with how clean our data is in Skyward. So we're going back and forth and making sure that employee data is correct, making sure that everybody has a phone number and that it's syncing correctly. So because we're at that level, we can now like fix the nitty gritty problems. All right, here's some more numbers. Who likes numbers? I do. We got so many numbers, y'all. So Facebook, I'm just going to give you our overview of analytics as much as possible. I tried to pull the data that was a year-long sort of encompassing. There's like one thing that wouldn't let me pull a year, so it's 6 months, and it says it on there when we get to it. So we have 5 Facebook pages, which is a bit excessive for a small school of 900 kids, but it's what we have. We did get rid of one at one point. That is a district Facebook page, a page for elementary, a page for middle, a page for high school, and a page for athletics. But we have 3,900 followers. We had a 60% increase in followers in the last year, which is great. So it's increasing. And of that, the number of engaged people were 48,000. Here's the Facebook page if you want to look at more in-depth analytics. You can look around at that. Our impressions last month, which is eyeballs. That's not engagement. That's just eyeballs that it goes past when you scroll on Facebook. We're 72,000 for that month. And our impressions for the year, and this is combined all 5 Facebook pages, was 72. So 722. 2,000. Y'all can read. And our 3 highest reached posts out of all of those Facebook pages for elementary. Thanksgiving pictures, Thanksgiving lunch pictures. Our Rockin' Ravens Core Value Awards and our pre-K parents are the most engaged parents always. And that was orientation pictures. So, but as you can see in this right-hand graph over here, we're on a positive trend. Like we're not going down, we're on a steady uphill climb as far as engagement's concerned. As for right now, I don't think there's a reason to get rid of the multiple pages because at some level, if you're an elementary parent, you don't really care what's happening at the high school ultimately. We want them to care. We maybe want them to follow the district page where we reshare different things so that there's crossover, right? But it's also, district page is a great place for community members to engage because they get not like nitty gritty things like picture day, but they get to see the big splashy cool things that are happening on our campuses. One thing I'll say that is true about all of our social media is that something that you can do as a board member that is huge and that you already, a lot of you do, is to like and share things that we're doing because that 722,000 is unpaid reach. I am your paid marketing solution. Hello, we do not pay for ads. We just push out great content and our families share it, but literally like a like and a share will make it reach, you know, percentages more than I could pay for even. So when you engage with our content, that really helps other people see it. And as you see, we're not like, even on Instagram, which is, it feels like a more hopping place sometimes, we're not getting tons of comments. We're not getting a ton of shares. And that's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It's just, it will be farther reaching. Our investment of time and effort will reach more people. So, and I say that to all of our staff too all the time. I'm like, just like us, please share our things. Instagram, we have two Instagrams, Rapoport Academy and Raps Athletics. That was a decision that we made when I first started because we really want athletics to we want to talk all about sports all the time. We want to post game day stuff. We want to post really fun videos and graphics. And we don't want our academic stuff to get overshadowed by game day. I mean, it's very easy for that to happen. And we want our athletes to never feel like, I don't ever want to feel like, oh, should I share this about our athletes or should I share this really cute picture of kids doing Hispanic Heritage Month stuff? And what if I do one or the other and the other one doesn't get seen by people? So we want people to follow the athletics account if they are absolute hardcore Raven fans and they want to see the sports things because they're not as much in competition since they're not from the same source. Does that make sense? Total between the two accounts, we have 1,800 followers, which I don't have the percentage that it's risen, but it is up a lot. It's grown year over year. Our impressions from the last year was 481,000. And total posts, I love to see this. The scheduling app that I use to do a lot of our social media has a really great reporting feature, which is where I got these great profiles from. I didn't see if you want to look at Instagram too. Can easily pull. Sometimes it's really hard to find out like how many like total posts did I do. But if I could pull for the whole year, it was 305 Instagram posts. And I always kind of like to joke like, there's no way I've spent less than 20 minutes on any Instagram post ever. So I did the math and that's like 12 days of just Instagram from last year, y'all. If you calculate just bare minimum 20, but I promise you it was more. 953 stories. I'm kind of sad that I didn't make it to 1,000.
Goals.
And
Hashtag goals. Yeah,
and 47 reels, which shows you one of the goals that I had for last year, which was to do a reel a week, which is just, you know, short form video that is a little more engaging for our younger audiences, younger teachers. None of our reels reached almost less than 1,000 people ever. And with people's short attention spans these days, a short form video is a great way to share our story, as you'll see when we get to YouTube. LinkedIn, this is great. I have Jared Gould in the room. I was going to say, we haven't done much with LinkedIn because for a while it took me a minute to get a hold of it after somebody left Rapoport and he was the only one who could access it.
But it's all
it wasn't
fixed.
his fault. It wasn't.
Yeah.
There you go. Was not his fault. I had to contact LinkedIn, like customer service. That was the only way that I got it done, which is, I'm glad that LinkedIn is actually more helpful than Meta Business Suite is because Facebook will never call you back. But LinkedIn, I finally got access to it. And then you know what I did? I didn't do anything. I left it alone. But this last year I was like, okay, we're gonna make sure that it's in the app that I actually use for all of our social media scheduling. So you can see, well, I would look at the bottom bullet first, which is that we did 46 posts in LinkedIn, which is up from 17 the previous year. When I said I did very little on there. It's not my favorite app, I'm not gonna lie, but I've been trying to focus on really celebrating employee specific things on there. And then I think driving our new employees to add us as their workplace, as you can see, I don't know if you get notifications, Dr. Ellis, but I did send you a happy Rapsiversary graphic. I've started doing that for anybody who is celebrating their, I sent you one too, their anniversary at Rapoport Academy. So, low key trying to engage on there, but it's just not my favorite. It's fine. We had 7,500 impressions. It's a good space to be in. And in fact, I will point out that you will not see Twitter/X on here because I would like us to move away from using it. It's just not maybe the best environment for education institutions to be on. A lot of schools are moving away from posting content on there. And I think 2 of our highest engaged people on there are in this room. You know who you are. And that was basically it. So every now and then we'd get a reporter who picked up a story, but otherwise it's just one more thing for me to do. And then I have to edit it to be short enough to be on Twitter, and that makes me mad. So, I think LinkedIn is a better use of that limited resource of time.
Yep.
As far as really reaching people that matter and not
it also
on the internet.
It also drives into one of the 6 initiatives that the board helped walk through for that academic strategic plan, which is recruitment, the pathways, partnerships, and pipelines. And so that's really where we're thinking about, along with the other social medias, but really if we're going to press in, let's press in on the professional side to get the adults, the teachers.
Yeah, I would say that not a lot of other people that we're trying to reach in those spaces are also utilizing Twitter nearly as much as they were maybe 10 years ago.
Okay. Website.
Website, I do have an analytics report. And if you have a magnifying glass, you can see every detail. But
if not, this presentation will be in the board drive. You're welcome.
I will put it in there. I tried to export it and put it on a few pages, and then it wouldn't. And I was like, I've spent so much time on this presentation. I'm going to move on. Our average monthly visitors for our website, which is rapoportacademy.org, is 2,500. And our active users in the whole last year, all added up because ain't nobody looking at it at Christmas. So that average monthly visitors can't be multiplied by 12, was 25,000. Our most popular pages are our homepage, our full staff directory, our breakfast and lunch menus, go figure, our calendars, and our athletics page. In fact, I did a big update on athletics last year to try to make sure that it was more visual. We added bios of our coaches and pictures, and kind of revamped the way we did the sports calendars on there. Some new pages that we added our back to school hub, where we tried to make school supply lists super accessible. Orientation, which is, we have a fully online option this year. I added a Raven alumni page and an option to sign up for the Raven alumni newsletter, which was a flight of fancy that I have not had time to invest any more time into other than to make a page, but it's there for when I do have time. And then we've updated and kind of overhauled our employment page overall, just to try to really sell how awesome it is to work here. As you can see, we do get most of our visitors from organic search. And I think overall we have very good keywords as far as driving people to our page. We're really easy to find online, which is awesome. There's not, a Rapoport Academy right around the corner or something like that, that we're having to compete with. And that is our average engagement time, active time on pages is 1:22, which is really great, actually. You'll be lucky to get more than 5 seconds from some people who are, nope, this is not where I want to be. So that's just the average time, according to Google Analytics. YouTube, we're almost done with the numbers, I promise, guys. There's just a lot that we do. Our YouTube is 3 years old as well, because I started it when I got here. So the fact that this year we've had 15,000 views and 12,000 of those guys were from shorts, which is the same thing as reels on Instagram. This is great. I double checked the numbers and there were 46 shorts, but 47 reels just means I only forgot one to upload because sometimes I have to remember to upload them in both places. And videos take a long time. So our average view duration was 1:27, which is also phenomenal. That's for videos, not for shorts. I don't remember what the average view time of shorts were. 68 total videos this year. It wasn't easy to pull how many videos we have on there now, but I think it's over 100. Surely out of 3 years. So as you can see, our top shorts are over there on the right-hand side, including this really cute one called Follow Your Dreams, which is only 50 seconds if you guys want to watch it, if you haven't seen it already. I
don't know that our sound is going to be good.
Yeah, sure.
I can try it, but
it does have subtitles, but see if it'll work. And go.
It's all the way up.
It can go full screen. Bottom corner. It's okay. It's because you just have so many things, don't you?
Yeah.
It's okay. Oh.
Hope.
Oh, it feels you guys in 50 seconds or less. So that was one of our most viewed reels. Thank you for making it 2,701.
Right.
And then the final one in that is, I think we'll do it.
Okay.
Is Google Business, which is something that we focused on a lot when I first started here. And that's just when you Google us, right? When you Google any business, Google creates a little profile for every business with handy things like their website and their address and their phone number. So we claimed all of those and made sure that they were correct and added pretty pictures and made it easy for people to find. The analytics from that for the last 6 months, that's the one that wouldn't let me pull a whole year, was 27,000 profile views from Google search, which is pretty good. Website clicks were significantly less, only 1,350 out of the 27,000 that looked at us wanted to go to our website, which is fine. Our reviews and ratings are holding really, really steady from the first year that we did a big push for Google reviews. So Meyer High School has 51 reviews with 4.1 stars. Middle school has 14 reviews with 4.9 stars because they were a brand new profile that did not exist before. So they had the benefit of not having very many, if any, negative reviews at all, unlike the high school, which had a slew of negative reviews when we had an employee leave before my time. So if you're wondering where this pitch is going, if you haven't reviewed us on Google, guys, we could always use a review. Second through fourth and pre-K through first elementary both have 4.7 stars. So the goal was always to move us as close to 5 stars as possible. I have a funny anecdote about Google Business. I rented had to use a rental car not too long ago because our car was in the shop and I was in town, and sometimes I know how to get to all the Rapoport academies, but I don't always know the most direct route to take. So I searched for Rapoport Academy Elementary on the big fancy screen in the middle of the car because it's a much newer car than my car. And guess what? It showed me how many stars our school had in addition to, because it was Google Maps, right? And it's all built into Google. So like nobody wants to find out that their school is a 2-star school when they're just trying to get there. So like those things are everywhere. They do matter. So feedback is important, even though it's not like a thing that people think about when it comes to school. So that's just another way that we communicate.
I had somebody ask me if the feedback ever falls off. You know, feedback, because feedback for Rapoport that's 6 years old, we are not the same Rapoport where we were, good or bad, either way, right? Like
we had some
good or
that
bad,
were
does it ever like
from student accounts? And those do go away because if they were student email addresses, I did try to see if Dean could just turn it off. So I was like, number one, we don't really need people using their Rapoport Academy email address to review places like their student email addresses. I would
That
love
are
them to just
like nefarious places.
well, yeah, exactly. Like, what if they're reviewing places we don't want them to review? So he couldn't turn it off, but he did say that once it had been a year after they graduated, they would go away. So
Okay.
I didn't really follow up on that, but there were student comments that were specifically related to that employee incident. So great question. All right, so goals for 24, 25, which I keep wanting to call 23, 24 because I'm living in the past. We have a big website redesign coming. We've had our current site for the 3 years coming up in January. So it's time for an update. That's typically the cycle for most educational contracts with websites. And like I said earlier, our website company was bought out by Parent Square. So we are moving to what's called a Parent Square Smart Site, which just has a lot more functionality built into it. It's a lot easier to make all of the pages visually fun and engaging. There is a design for the homepage, but they haven't started the data migration yet. They sent me the sitemap first week of school, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to get back to you. We're really busy right now. I had a really great phone call with Mrs. Hill about ADA compliance, and I'm super excited to make sure that as we move our content over, we really focus in, because a lot of these website tools say they're going to be, and they have a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. But if we check it on the other side, and the fact that I'm making sure that there's alt text for every dang thing that's on there isn't actually working with a screen reader, then we need to hold the companies accountable for that and make sure that they're making the changes that we need for it to be as compliant as we want it to be. Or we just have to get rid of some of the fun bells and whistles that aren't going to actually serve people who cannot see or who cannot speak English. So if it's something that becomes untranslatable, that's important for us to know as well. I would love to say that all the wonderful people in Austin who send us a bajillion things to put on our website, they have a special place that they can go to someday. So it's not just, this is not me complaining about compliance as far as people with disabilities, but just so you know, there is so many things, so many things that we have to put on our website all the time and keep updated and make sure translated into Spanish. So it's just a really big project. So I want your help. I want your eyeballs. I want you to let me know if you come across something that looks wrong. Katrina Carmine is my bestie because she sends me typos. It will never, ever, ever hurt my feelings if you let me know there's a typo or a broken link. I want to know. There are a lot of pages on there, and there's a lot of content, and there are things that can get out of date. But I am one person who is trying to juggle a lot of balls. And sometimes there are pages that get out of date or don't have correct information on it. And I would love you to let me know, please. So especially as we start rolling this out, I may have y'all look at the site before it goes live and give me feedback and let me know if there's something that needs to be changed. That sound good? I think it's gonna be great. They're both, all of our sites have been mobile friendly, but this is just gonna be better. Yeah. You can click on it too, actually, if you want to. Rapoport.smartsitehost.com.
There it is.
It is live. They pulled some like
It's up in
random
the top
stock
left, you see.
photos. And I think that's from the state track meet.
It is.
And then there's one random photo off of our Facebook page. You know, they didn't grab the ones on our current website, but if you scroll down, you can see some of the things that we plan to highlight. This is great. I did want to pull it up. Will be a news feed there, but there wasn't anything in it. So there's nothing there right now. There'll be events for the calendar. Our quick links will stay. We'll have kind of a little place to put some big numbers. We're going to have our featured Raven families, which is something we're bringing back again this semester. That's just placeholder. And then some highlights of who we are, what sets us apart. And we will not have anyone playing a violin because we don't do that.
And
That's
yeah,
just the
outside of
homepage.
school, just not in school. Yeah. So that's just the
Yeah, so hopefully it won't feel more seamless because it looks a lot like our old site, but it has some more fun things, more fun elements to it that will keep it visually appealing. And hopefully, I always say that your website's kind of like your front porch. You know, people decide whether or not they want to come in the door. So we want it to be a good marketing tool as far as, you know, families and employees that want to come here. All right.
So on that, it's just the homepage that's available on that smart site.
Right, because they haven't done it. They do the data migration for us. Actually, Parent Square cut us a really great deal. They didn't charge us anything for the data migration at all. And then we're actually going to be paying less for the website than we have been. Like we're saving money, which is awesome. So I looked at a few other products because there's a lot of great options out there. And it's at least a third of one of the really popular ones that a lot of our school districts in the area use.
And we already use Parent Square, so why not align them,
A lot of money. One thing that's really cool is that our news feed will actually be syncing from Parent Square. So I will have to do less of posting in both places, and our staff directory, which is another thing we've been working really hard to clean up. Our Skyward stuff will also sync from Parent Square. So I have to do all that manually right now. Whenever there's a new employee, I have to add them to the website. So I'm really looking forward to not having to do that anymore. They'll have more time to add documents to the required postings page. I only have 2 more slides, I promise. All right, some new things that we're doing. We launched a couple Parent Square newsletters. And I have training on there, but I don't have anything about training, but I'll talk about it. And then, like I said, we're doing a bunch of data fixes, which is great. We're having people give us feedback because they're like, oh, people are getting things and I'm not getting those things. So what's great is that we're able to fix that, but also that means that parents are paying attention and are giving us feedback. So Parent Square rolled out a really beautiful templated design. Before it was kind of like your basic email, it could do some things, but it was hard to make it pretty. But with their new, what's called Studio Editor, it makes it a lot easier to make nice looking newsletters, kind of like a s'more or an email marketing campaign. So this last month, brainchild of Angie Cotton, we created a Raven Family Connections newsletter, which is focused on parent-family engagement, just letting you know, hey, from a district perspective, here are the parent-family things that are happening this month. Here are some trainings or some things that might help you when you're assisting your kid. We sent out a really great webinar that was like a replay of a webinar that I attended that was awesome from Region 16. And then kind of tips and things like that. So, and then we also just launched an employee newsletter, again, from the district perspective, trying to make sure that all employees are on the same page, that they, there isn't a pocket of people who don't hear the same message as far as security issues, technology things that we want to get about picture day and how I need everyone to go get their picture taken so they can get a new ID. So that everyone gets an ID that, again, is free, which is Katrina's favorite word. And this year is going to have our security protocols in the back. So I really need people to either take their picture or send me a note and I will pull their picture from last year. And then also looking at ways to highlight our staff. So all of that information was in that first one. We're also highlighting things that are free for our staff. So, and or low cost. So we have a great discount with the YMCA, and they're offering us a free preview week next week for if you show your badge, you can go to the YMCA for free, and they get 20% off for the Y. So that's part of my new wellness initiatives that I'm working on with Shaq as well, but helping our employees know about things that might make their lives easier by making sure that it's not only communicated to a small group. And it's Parent Square. And then lastly, when we get all that other stuff done, after the website's launched, we're going to work on communication survey and strategic planning for next year. I don't want to assume that what I think is best is what is actually best. So we want to make sure that to have effective communication that is really meeting our community's needs, that we do more of a comprehensive survey specifically about communications. We do a lot of other surveying about academic needs, about support from the school, but I would love to hear more from parents about how we can improve that communication and then really look at that to identify the highest needs for improvement and then build that into our 25-26, y'all, strategic plan just for communications. And that is all the things I have to say. Do you have questions?
It's great job.
You give all the data in handout version, there's really not room for questions.
I mean,
It's all there.
I can also send you the digital versions. Do you want me to put them in a drive folder?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Put it all together and then I can drop it in.
It's just incredible what the scope of what you've got going on and that you do it with such excellence. And it's just really elevated the
the institution.
I don't ever feel like it's all a lot of excellence.
Great.
It feels like a lot of juggling, but I appreciate that.
Very well.
Yeah.
Great.
With an upbeat spirit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Whenever I need to pick me up, I'm like, hey, where are you going? hey, come back here.
So my question is on the website.
Yep.
Mhm.
What is the ADA stuff?
Mhm.
What is, how is ADA?
Oh,
for the website?
she's
an expert,
actually.
So that is
Period.
for the American Disabilities Act, which came out like in the 1970s.
I did.
And a lot of companies started adhering to it, mostly for buildings and wheelchair access. But they forgot to factor in that there are other disabilities that people have with sight, with mobility, with hearing, with even the touching of skin for certain things, certain products that might, cause rashes or something. So for websites, you have to think of not view. Take your eyeballs out, take your ears off, if you don't speak the language that you see. And so there are some things on the school's website, they were, what were we, like 70%
Yeah.
was the score.
Right. Yeah.
It's passing.
Yeah.
But you want to target closer to the 90th percentile of that scoring. And there were just small things, some things that SJ was working on. She add alt tags, which means if someone can't see a picture, it needs to have a screen reader that can tell them what that picture is. So if I took a picture of Miss Pate, it's going to say beautiful young lady on the
I was gonna say.
Yeah. And so there's some things that a lot, especially with the state of Texas and a lot of the US DOJ, they're going after companies and they're suing them, especially just for website accessibility.
And it isn't just in Texas. Anybody
Worldwide.
can sue you.
Yeah.
Like, even if they don't have anything to do with Rapoport Academy, they could be like, but it's not accessible to me, and it should be, and they're not wrong.
Sure.
Okay. So you can look at little things like the W3C consortium, will give you brief information about everything. There are certain guidelines for accessibility, like the CAG 2.1, 2.2 is releasing this year. All of those things are to make, that goes back to diversity and inclusion, which the district is big upon. But you're not as inclusive if your website is not inclusive.
Sure.
We're 70% hitting the mark. So,
You're there.
but that's not there. Yeah, that's not where we want to go. We are
No, and what
there,
she
but-
pointed out was really helpful, because some of that is built into it, but it isn't working. So there are other things that we can change and control, but some of it is supposed to be built into the website builder itself. Like, you can't post anything at all without including a description of the image. But then when a screen reader actually reads it, it doesn't pick it up. So that's very frustrating.
Okay, any other questions? Let's move on to the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Well
much.
done. Yay. Okay.
We'll return to committee report.
Finance.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you. Well, the finance committee meeting met last Friday, the 13th. And I know, yeah.
It's a magical day. It's my favorite.
Yeah. So basically we did a recap of the pay and benefit reviews that Katrina put together from the other schools in the district, or county, sorry, to see, if there is any potential for state funding increase. There may be, then that would be something we could revisit on the health insurance and the increase in covering the cost of that increase, or something to that effect. So that should be forthcoming in the next meeting or two. Hopefully to have that as an agenda item. Also discussed about grant writing and seeing if that was how we could support Katrina in terms of either figuring out if there internship opportunity, is there something that we as the committee could do? Is there something of that effect? Katrina does a great job of scanning and screening and reviewing those, but maybe if there was more eyeballs to look at those, that we could help out with that. Then we talked about the endowment, what we would like to see the endowment do or be, in terms of being able to promote it and do fundraising campaigns to it, getting local businesses involved, and other stakeholders involved to commit to that. And that's when we decided that SJ needed to be a part of that conversation to give us some guidance on that. So be looking for an invitation soon to do that. And then really to talk about the outlook of the current investment that's in there in terms of the market value, the increase in the value of the account, which was done well for this year, but also talking about scholarships again and being more ahead of the curve instead of behind. So looking at discussing the in January, so that way we can get the marketing out and get the word out sooner and that sort of thing. We did talk about the gym a little bit in the construction in terms of sponsorship opportunities or something to the effect for the scoreboard or that type of thing, and then realized the facilities committee was going to be discussing some of those things too. So, and then also again looking at opportunity to have some sort of commemorative brick and how that would work. And again, the facilities committee I know is working more on that, but those were some of the highlights from that. So.
Thank you.
Hey, woohoo.
All right.
And you also set standing meetings, from what I understand.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right. Facilities.
Hello. Thank you, Grady, for thinking of that. I added it to my list. You're right. We talked about some of those same things, but I added something that you didn't, you mentioned we didn't consider, is a scoreboard. But moving on, Rashonda Farmer-Nill, Shaquinta Hill, and myself all met on September the 6th. That was a Friday at 11:30. We have set our regular meetings to be the third Wednesday of each month at 10:30 a.m. virtually. So we will meet the day after our board meeting to kind of get started on whatever task we're going to do for the month between meetings. We talked about, we initially sat down to talk about a community recognition wall that Ms. Hill had brought up in maybe a previous meeting and what that could look like and other opportunities in the gym. Some of the things we were talking about were pavers, bricks, wall. Is that a timeline? Is it a mural? What would be the criteria for what we put on the wall? Is that people who have had a contribution to Rapoport, people who've had a contribution to community, and being able to get that information from the board as well as community members. We thought before we go too far into making any types of plans, one of the things we would love to do with the committee is speak with the architect or the builders about their timeline. When do we need to be prepared to have a idea or solution or have it implemented? Any materials or cost, and what spaces are available? Any tours or layouts that we could see to get a better understanding of what we're dealing with in the interior and exterior. We talked about landscaping, pavers, benches, a plaque in the interior or the exterior, but bringing that back to the board. We also were able to connect with our staff member from Rapoport, Mr. John Foray, who will facilitate our Zooms and work with us to answer questions and be our liaison. But we definitely thought about how the Elm Street Library has the history panels, and I served as part of a community kind of input group. So in that group, the Northeast Riverside Neighborhood Association was present, the NAACP, and a local historian, Don Wright. So all of those are people that we could bring in, but anyone else that you think has relative information or, wants to even volunteer, I guess, maybe in an ad hoc capacity for maybe building some of that, those ideas. We talked about who's going to do the work and be involved in it. Is this a student, project? Is the mural something that our kids could do? Is it something Art Apprenticeship could take on with the students? Where are staff being involved, and even local businesses and sponsorships, community members? And then what do we do with the proceeds that we raise? Where do they go? And so whatever ideas and things that we think of, whether it's for students or for teachers or scholarships, we want to get a consensus on that. And I did notice there was a document added to the drive that gave us some kind of guiding questions for our committee. So I opened it. It said, "Why are we here?"
Oh,
Yeah. And so
that may have been, yeah,
I think we
to the other committee, but
in
yeah.
our discussion, facilities had previously done tours for safety, walkthroughs for repairs, different things, just making sure that the maintenance, safety, and upkeep of facilities were what they needed to be for our students, staff, and visitors. And so I think we are still trying to ensure that the safety, security, and upkeep of the facilities meets the needs of students, staff, and visitors on all of our campuses and all of our buildings. But with this particular endeavor, this is an opportunity for us to implement changes or updates or beautification in some of our plans and projects that will enhance and promote our Rapoport values, our core values, our pride, and represent our community. When do we meet? Third Wednesdays. And just right now, what we are considering is how the gym project can be shaped for the kids we have now and the future generations. One of the things I don't know what we will successfully measure our progress by is how do we measure whether or not we're doing a good job? I guess everybody's safe and they like it, but that's just a general answer. But our tasks for the next meeting, I think, are very dependent upon what we could move on. Maybe we have that meeting and talk about timelines and find out what we can do and when we can do it before, and share that with you all and any ideas. Also, you mentioned the chandelier as well as student projects. So all of the projects, gather a list of what we want to do and find out what we can do, what's feasible, and what it may cost, and who will sponsor it. Thank you.
That's awesome. I'm really excited about that.
District improvement.
Yeah.
I think that's me, since I'm the only one.
Yeah.
It's you.
So I said we met ish, right?
We met
So
it,
yeah.
we had some scheduling things that got in the way.
Mhm.
And so, trying to figure that out, but I did.
Yep.
Get to meet with Dr. Newman and Angie Cotton, who's gonna be our staff resource, to kind of guide us through our work. We have access now to a drive folder of a lot of historic, academic data, which is, I think, going to be really valuable as we think about ways that we can improve achievement for all students. And we also, I think, we're going to have access to, Dr. Newman mentioned it earlier, new types of data that they're collecting regarding parent engagement, regarding behavior, and some data regarding attendance, so we can prioritize, try to figure out what areas we think we can apply our kind of focus on, and see how we can do our job of improving the district through that. So, our next steps though are we need to get
Schedule meetings
on
and
the
get
same
it.
page with scheduling, so that we can have a regular. So that's coming up.
Awesome. Great job, board. Thanks for making that.
Yoo-hoo!
meeting.
Good job, board. Very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm very, very
so
excited.
We'll shift to the next section.
Perfect. That's okay. I've got it right here. So as we move on, I just want to quickly mention two things that I'd forgotten to put on my report. They'll be brief. One, you guys have seen the lone finalists for the new superintendent over at Waco ISD. I'm beyond pumped. So yeah, so Tiffany was in the Thompson Leadership Academy that you guys allowed me to go to last year. So she was one of the 28 in the cohort, is an unbelievably dynamic leader. We spent lots of hours talking about Rapoport Academy and about the community and about positivity and about charter schools and about all sorts of amazing things. So she is going to be really cool for the community. And she's going to be really great, just an educator in the area. So I'm beyond excited. I already contacted Rachel, was like, okay, I got to get you two a connection with each other. So Tiffany's already let me send her cell phone. So anyway, I'm really excited about what that's going to mean for our community and even for partner, for what it means for Rapoport Academy as well. So number one, I'm excited about that. Two, you may have noticed, hopefully you noticed there was an email that went out. We posted it where our agendas are posted. We also posted on the wall there, that we're not doing live streaming of our meetings anymore. So there was some feedback that came back really from Chris Brownlee, our IT support staff. And he said, hey, so just a heads up, like legal counsel told us before, like you may not want to stream live. because somebody could see it as a platform that they could use it and get stuff out there without any sort of filtering. If somebody wanted to do something negative in a meeting to people or at the meeting or whatever else, there's no way for us to stop what that would look like. So it's not for a censorship necessarily, it's for a safety thing. So anytime you give someone a worldwide platform that's completely open where they could have an unlimited audience, it might encourage things that aren't good. So we are going to record them. We don't plan on censoring anything, public comment, anything like that. It's really a safety issue. Also, if somebody were to come in and rattle off a whole bunch of profanity, not that anybody ever has, but if they did, we would need to be able to kind of maybe mute that part of it or whatever else we would need to be able to do that, just so that it kind of continues to be both transparent, but it also allows for it. Also, it will help us out because right now we try to pause and pick up and come back, do photos or anything like that. So it'll allow us to be able to pull it together. Chris has volunteered to take all the stuff and set it all up. We have a new camera tonight and all of that. He's going to take all of it, record it, pull it all together, and it'll be posted by the next day. So I think it'll be seamless for our families and our community. They'll be able to access the full meeting. It just follows legal guidance for safety and security purposes as well. So hopefully all the information got out communicated. I will always have that statement on the agenda that says you can find a recording of this and here's where you go find it. So we can still stay transparent and open. It's not legally required that our school do this. It's not legally required that we record meetings or that we post the meetings, just that we actually provide minutes. So I like that we take that extra step and I hope we can continue to do that, but we are making that change.
Would like to put that, if we could send some sort of through social media, hey, here's the link type thing to maybe help engagement with.
Sure. So SJ did big pushes for board meetings, put them on the calendar and did postings for that. We didn't have any movement from that. Not that we shouldn't do it.
Sure.
Not what I'm saying. But what we have gotten a lot of movement from is the little board summary that we do for staff. I do it every morning, the next morning, or sometimes that night, whenever we do it. So we've gotten a lot of movement internally. But yeah, we could absolutely make sure that that's available.
I think here's the video from the board meeting, 3 to 5 bullet points of what happened. Watch the whole video here. One of the other things that we like about we'll be posting it to YouTube is that it has an auto captioning feature as well, which will actually make it more accessible again, because the way we were doing it before was not captioning it. So
Yep. So I think that'd be great to do the pushes for that. So anyway, those are a couple of quick things. All right, moving on. Approval for STV contract change. In your drive, there was a document from STV, which is our architect for the gym. In the initial budgeting process, they allocated a certain amount of dollars for construction management. Based on the agreement that we have with Texas Capital, which happened after the STV contract, and early on a partnership with a more laborious reviewer, they have already expended that construction budget. It wasn't in anticipation that we could have anticipated, right? Like it wasn't a cost we could have anticipated. So what they've done is put together just a cost plus. So it's just an hourly rate. It's not a set, it's a not to exceed amount. Their hourly rate is competitive. They've actually swapped out some staffing roles so that we use this lesser per hour staff member than we do the higher per hour staff member on all the things that we can. Absolutely. So it's things like meeting management, setting the agendas for our construction management meeting, monitoring the tools, and that doesn't need to be the full architect. It could be the manager of that. So anyway, I feel that it's very reasonable. Katrina has looked at it. They absolutely have done hours and hours of work up until this point. We have a new reviewer that we're partnering with Texas Capital, where the first one, the first couple of months that we were in project averaged $5,000 to $8,000 a month in reviewer bills from this third-party reviewer, not our architect, from the third-party reviewer. The new one is $700 a month. So completely more reasonable scope, more reasonable activity. It took days, if not weeks, of feedback and conversation in our first set of reviewers. This new one, it's about a day and a half review, and they meet all the things that the bank needs. So
in addition to the reduced cost, we anticipate that expense will also, like the time.
It will save
by the
us.
contract.
Yeah. So basically, we've already spent the whole budget that they planned out for the whole contract.
My question is, how do we know that this person won't continue to run up the
Two
time-
different
the
people.
bill? Okay.
Yeah, two different people. So this other one was it's a good question. No, it's a good question. So this is our architect team. That's what this bill is about. STV is our architect team. They had built in a certain amount of budget. And because this third party reviewer that the bank required demanded so much time and effort. I'll give you an idea. So there was one day during one of the meetings, I had a 3.5 hour conversation with this person. I did. That was in addition to the other time that everybody else had already spent. Our meetings averaged an hour and 10 minutes, and now they average 25 minutes. So what we've been able to do is say, okay, bank, is all this really needed? And they were like, no, we don't need all of that. So we've found a third-party reviewer that is meeting the bank's needs and getting it done at a dramatically less labor cost and actual dollar value. So STV has come back and said, hey, you know what, we're going to recalculate. Like, we've already spent this, but we don't need to block in this much money. Instead, what we're going to say is we're not going to exceed this much, but let's just do it hour by hour and let's reduce the hours as much as we can. Does that make sense? So two different
Yes.
people.
But I read
This
it,
one caused this pot of money to go
so we need more money because you've already blown through your time.
because of a lot of this work. Yes, that's correct.
So both-
Mhm. So to use roundabout numbers, right? Like we had budgeted for, let's say of all the architect fees, like $50,000 was for construction management. We have already gone through that because we were having 10 hours a week in this reviewer response.
Is that reviewer someone the bank chose because it's required?
So that reviewer is someone that the bank asked for some recommendations. Our legal counsel provided some all during that closing process. And so we did some interviews, and it wasn't anything about professionalism. It was, I think it was more that reviewer is used to being an owner's rep and being the person who manages every little detail. And we tried to scale it back and tried to scale it back and tried to scale it back. But because that's where they're comfortable operating, I think they just really struggled scaling it back to what the bank needs. Because what the bank recognized is that Masonic is doing all these reviews, Katrina is doing all these reviews, and the architect firm is doing all these reviews. So we already have 3 layers of review going on. So the bank said, well, really, this is the amount of review that we really need. So we were able to find a reviewer that specialized in that the bank has used on multiple projects before. So we went from thousands and thousands a month to $700 per review. We went from hours and hours of the architect's time, which is all billable, to a few hours that's related to that. So that's where the additional cost comes from, is because of this extra work that we have now remedied. But we've already expended that budget that they had initially set aside. So now we'll just move to just an hourly rate, recognizing a not to exceed, although they don't expect to get near that, but a not to exceed so that we know at least where we need to work within. That way we don't have to come back to the board every month with like incremental additions. It was absolutely unforeseeable.
The additional amount
Mhm.
is 18.
Yeah, not to, excuse me,
That's
not
what
to
we're
exceed.
voting to authorize tonight.
Yeah, I'll tell you, let me pull it up.
STV.
Yeah, I put in STV in it.
Hang on a second, let me,
I was looking in the September folder. I didn't see it.
hang on.
Yes.
Let me get to the September folder. Give me just a second. Is it? Katrina, didn't we drop it in there? Oh, I didn't slow down. I didn't scroll down. There it is. STV agreement. There it is. Okay. Yeah, so. Yeah, it's not, I was kind of struggling with 18,000. No, it's 51,000. Yeah. not 18.
So
Just say-
$700 a month.
So it's an
In
additional.
addition.
Oh, sorry. We would need to amend their total budget. I see what you're saying with 18. We would need to amend their total budget to be 51,000. So it's an added cost not to exceed 18,000. There's a name in there. So an added cost not to exceed 18,000 for a total cost of 51,000. And I will tell you, they are a really phenomenally amazing team to work with. They have been really great. We walked around the site. Matter of fact, today we had our meeting. We meet every other week now that construction has come on. Yeah. So every other week we meet now.
You'll let us know when we get together, right?
Absolutely. So you can, I will offer it again. You can go anytime you want to, but it is almost to a place where I can be more confident in the safety of having a number of people in. So my hope is that in October, maybe we'll be able to kind of take the first few minutes of this meeting and go over there and just walk through it. Or we could maybe, if you want to walk through it, do like a 4:30 and you could walk through it beforehand. But yeah.
Should have left this after climbing up some scaffolding.
Yes, I missed the top one. They had it like 4 layers up, and I love like heights and like perching on things, and so they let me crawl up and yeah. So I got to crawl up there. All right.
Dr. Newman, let me ask you,
Yes.
would that be the appropriate time on one of those Tuesdays, 1st or 3rd, that the facility committee
You
take
bet.
advantage of? you
Come
all
on
having a
over.
meeting And bring our questions to that, okay.
Yep. Or when you're having your meeting, we can go. Like we can give y'all a place to meet here on campus if you want, and we can just go. That's not a problem.
Is the architect or someone in this stance that answers our questions always there?
Yeah. So the superintendent is there every day. So they have a construction superintendent, Eric Sonneveld, but he's there every day. So he can answer just about anything we can throw at him.
So I don't forget when Rachel's going over her notes. On the fundraiser site, SJ.
Shut her up.
Could we link through that somehow for people to purchase the books?
So our
Yes,
tables and benches,
absolutely.
all
Is
right.
there,
Mhm.
I don't know how to-
You just bring her in a meeting.
We also with our upgrade superpowers, we can also do monthly donations to any specific cause. So if someone wanted to do $5 monthly towards the building fund or something, they can do that as well, which I'm really excited about because it's not like we all have $500 we can give at a time, but like you can give $5 100 times and that still adds up.
Still gets there. So does anybody have any questions about that?
Okay, I'll entertain a vote.
I make a motion to approve the additional expense for STV not to exceed $18,000
In
in
addition,
addition to their original.
perfect.
negotiated rate.
Great. Excellent. Who seconded? Neil? Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Perfect. Okay.
Next, we'll shift to board policies.
Board policies. Now, I actually I know that one board member went through every policy word by word. And I saw that all board members opened policies. I think that's probably the first time ever that everybody has actually opened and gone through the policies. Some were notes, some were comments, some look like they may have just been reviews, but I'm really excited about that. So thank you for being engaged, board members, and actually going through and looking through.
Yeah,
For me.
Better than we've ever had.
yeah.
So,
By that point, yeah.
yeah, please don't. So, how do you guys want to go about that? One of the things, yeah, she's amazing. One of the things I'll say, there were a few places where Ms. Hill gave comments or notes, and I responded back to those so everybody can have a chance to look through those. We kept those very transparent so that you could see those. Almost everything in there is this is what we're required to do, or this is what's been provided, or this is what our legal counsel has said. There's very little free will in those policies. So much is there. There are several that are new policies based on the last legislative session that will have some things we're going to have to conform to now. So once it's approved here, then we'll roll it out for kind of some review and education so that we can meet those policy requirements at that point. But there's very little flexibility within that. But I'm happy to entertain any questions. I don't think it's conducive to go through all of them.
My proposal, we go individual by individual, and if there's a comment or a question or a thought, then the person, the director who has that can ask the question instead of going, and then, does that make sense?
Do you have questions? You just want me to say, do you have questions?
I have one, but
Okay.
I just want to give everyone an opportunity, and I don't want to discuss every single one. So I don't want to.
You don't want to discuss it what?
Every single one. But if you have one that you have a question on, or two, or whatever, we can answer those questions.
I have one question on the transgender students. I know it's a little tricky with our lawsuit, feds. And the my only thought was this last sentence. It says, no student shall be forced to share a single-sex restroom with other students or school personnel. So a single-sex restroom is going to be our girls' room and boys' room.
Correct.
So are students entitled to demand a private use of the shared bathrooms? Because that's what that says. And so I'm curious if that was the intention.
So we actually here have been pretty progressive, and in almost every single building, but for every student, there is an opportunity to share a solo bathroom. So we have staff bathrooms. So we have never had an issue at all with our students who are questioning, wondering, whatever else, being able to find bathrooms that meet that requirement. Theoretically, a student can say, no, I want to use the boys' bathroom. And if so, what we can do is set in timeframes where that student can use the boys' bathroom or the girls' bathroom if that's what they decide. They can use it privately, absolutely. What we cannot do is require, I can't require female students to go into a bathroom with someone who was biologically born not female at the same time. I have to be able to give that access for that one. But what we've had great success, what we have found is for Rapoport Academy, most of our students who are questioning or wondering or in fluidity or maybe have decided that they're expressing in a different way, most of them are like, please, thank you. Let me have a private space. Let me have a place where I don't have to cause problems for myself or for anybody else. So all of our students have access to bathrooms that are secure and safe for them. That's an excellent question. Did you have any other questions?
Nope, everything else is good.
Wait, everything's straightforward. Are you still okay going around this way? Let's start over there, Ms. Shanks.
There were like a couple little like typo things, but I think that
They were typo things, or were they like content questions?
typo things.
Okay,
So
you can send those to me.
okay, yeah, I think they're really minor.
Okay.
I know a lot of the fun stuff we changed part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think all of mine were about like implementation of this stuff, but I know it all aligns with
Okay.
art and stuff. So I think.
So maybe I can set a follow-up so we can answer some of the implementation things about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just make sure.
Great. Perfect.
It is, yeah. So it's probably something we're gonna talk about.
Works out.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked a lot live as we were going through. Were there any that you had kind of continued? Okay. And I was gonna say we kept them very transparent. I really appreciated that. Great. Did you have any questions that didn't get answered or anything as you were going through?
Yeah, I just was curious about the instructional materials sections. There seemed to be a lot of things marked out, and I didn't know what caused that, what the reason for that is, how that could like modify.
Things marked out.
Well, there was paragraphs that were in red. It was 2.301.
So those are all edits that came from legal counsel. So none of my edits came out in red. That was legal counsel's redlining a document so that we knew what had changed.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
there were lots of movements within the academic materials,
Yeah,
instructional content in the last legislative session. So red lines are from the legal counsel. The only thing I changed I highlighted in yellow.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that may be what you saw, some of the legal counsel redlining that was due to legislative changes.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I noticed it was about the instructional section, the
Mhm.
dyslexia
Mhm.
part.
Over in the special education section with some of the dyslexia stuff. Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think this isn't related, but it sort of is. But in terms of having an anonymous tipping thing, which I found out from
Yeah.
email.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, well, good, we have that.
It worked.
So, yes, it worked.
Yeah,
So
it worked.
anyway, that was a question that I had related to reporting of activity. I think it was like in 2.405, maybe, whatever. So,
and there are some new reports, and as we're going through those, there's some new reports that we're going to be publishing to the board, making sure that are in our annual report, publishing online. And so we'll be going through all of these new requirements just to make sure that we're in compliance with those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, the rest of it all seems pretty straightforward.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, last, we will shift to.
Did you have any questions?
Oh, I did.
Okay, like you get to ask if you have any questions or not. Yeah. Okay. So ideally we have motions.
Oh, yeah. On that, I didn't see them.
It was a lot of work. I'd like to maybe have them like enacted.
I make a motion that we approve the board policies.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And then there is a liberty to correct typos. So even within those, I just won't create any new content or anything like that from that. Okay. Hey, so I have some really exciting things on the construction update to wrap up the meeting with. So yay, hopefully you guys looked at it before you came over. The walls are above the fence. They're around the sides. If you take a peek in, go to Demaria's parking lot side and you can peek in and see it from that side. Or if you're on the Rose Street side, you can walk up to the fence and kind of see in from the side, but it's a big jump on that side. But you can see where the windows are going to be that face towards a concession stand so people can get their food and watch the game without bringing food into the gym. So they'll be able to watch and look in there. You can see the second floor windows on both sides where from the offices or from the corridor outside the offices where the athletic offices and stuff will be, they can actually look down into the gym and watch what's going on in the gym, monitor whatever else. You can see where the locker rooms are going to be in the dressing rooms and the IT closet and all of that. What's not there is some of the outer pieces, like the entryway is not there and the sidewalks are not there. Today we did a walk around and I was really excited to hear some of the things from the facilities committee because we did a walk around and talked about exterior facing spaces. And so on the Rose Street side and a little bit on the Demaria's side and the residential side, there's going to be some pretty expansive stretches of concrete that'll be at the foundation level, 6 feet tall, feet wide. That could be beautiful exterior mural spaces. Then we also talked about we're going to do a beam signing on the inside. And I haven't gotten to tell you this, Tyler. Yeah. So we have identified that most of all of the beams, of course, as you can imagine, are going to be closed underneath ceilings and whatever else. But in the weight room, there's going to be a few exposed beams in the weight room. So what they're going to do is actually take one of those pieces of metal, go have it painted, bring it back. And then we're going to be able to put it on campus and have a beam signing on 3 sides. And then they're going to clear coat it for us and then mount it. So in the weight room, we'll be able to do signatures on the beam for that area. So I'm really excited about that. I have been cruising gyms and emailing superintendents to find cool raven. There are other animals for theirs, of course, but on the inside of the gym, above the visitor section, there's a large expanse of a wall. And so we are actively looking at what that might look like. There will be a whole campaign for what the Raven's going to look like and all that sort of stuff. I say that because you mentioned our apprenticeship. As I talked about it, I was chatting with Stephanie and she was like, oh, that would be a cool project. We have a former student who's very interested in jumping in. He already works with Stephanie. Who is a well-known muralist in Dome. So it looks like we might have some good movement for that to be like part of a big student project. The other big movement that we have is our students have been working on the chandelier piece for quite some time. And so they came up with designs. There was a committee that reviewed it. We narrowed down the designs, we selected design, then they started working on like 3D birds and what that would look like and all that sort of stuff. Over the summer, we had a student that kind of dug in and tried to work on some of that. And at the end of the summer, Miss Ward, kind of who was the coordinator of it, came and said, our kids can't do it. Like, we just have to admit that it is beyond the scope of what they can do. So she already had someone who had come in partnering in with the teachers and providing like expertise support, who is an artisan in town, who is local, who is a female artisan engineer, who works with one of our alumni families in blacksmithing, and she's a metal sculptor. Anyway, so we've met with her. She's already kind of pro bono done like a schematic and design that takes the student work and makes it into a thing. So it's not in our budget, and neither is the total amount of what she needs in order to be able to make this a reality. She wants to bring students in and help with that. She has all sorts of ideas for how we could fundraise to make it happen as a part of this. So I'm really excited because I get to show you. Okay, so let me go back. So the student concept was a nest with birds, right? Some version of like an artistic nest that's lit, that has lighting that goes in that entryway with some sort of like raven, something around it. So she took their design and came up with that behind you. So the light is up and down, it's LED, it's repairable should those LEDs go out at some point. It's a shiny, like a metallic aluminum steel around each of those rings. Those have cross hatches for support with this center pole. So when you look up from the bottom, it will look like layers of nests with cross hatches in them. Then the birds are all lightweight. She hasn't finished a bird design yet for us to look at it, but we'll bring it to the board. But they're all lightweight and they're all on movable arms. So the birds will have movement within that. And so she's going to work with our architects to see what the wind movement looks like and try to make it so that it's not like birds, but it's like they're kind of flexible and mobile. So a couple of things she's recommended to help with fundraising is she can make extra of those birds and we could auction them off. People could buy a bird, whatever. One of the thoughts that the students had is that we would make smaller versions of those and then put all of the graduates that have ever graduated from Rapoport Academy on them and run them up the entryway and hallway and whatever else. And so that could be like an annual thing. Like we honor our graduates by them getting their raven up on the wall. I get like super sappy, like thinking about it. But anyway, so we could recognize that. So anyway, she's got ideas for fundraising. The one thing that we have with that is I'm absolutely confident that I can find money, fundraise money, go to the art world to make it happen because it's a student inspired design and students will get to have a hand in helping make it come to life. She will take the lead in making it actually happen. She absolutely can meet the deadline. The total cost, even with her donation back of some of it, is $15,000. I know. It's a lot of money, but I really, really, really want to make these students' dreams come true in that space. So it's in the section that says discussion and possible action. I would like the board to consider possible actions up to not to exceed 15,000 with a conversation about how we can fundraise so that the district construction budget is not used necessarily for that, but students have a voice in what that looks like. So we could plan for what that looks like. I just need to be able to give her the go ahead to start if we want it to be done when it gets done. Yes.
Remember last year there was loads for the Home Depot?
Yep, they did the whole big grant out here.
We do that and use the money from them to pay for this. They came in and did some partnership.
So they did. They did the outside yard. The check was really to pay for like the picnic tables, the planters, the flowers, the benches, and then they redid the engineering lab that's over there. And so they brought in that. So that's kind of expended.
The second question you said in the discussion, so we can at least let her know, yes, we go ahead and start. So if we don't know where the funding is coming from, when we tell her yes, and we don't guarantee funding when it's time for payment, how does that work?
So
contingency line item in the budget?
I think we could probably, from positions that are currently open, if we needed to scrape together the money to be able to cover the student project, I think we could. Katrina? If we had to, if no money got raised at all, could we fund 15,000? We've already have, yeah, we already have several positions that haven't been filled yet for this, for this year so far that would cover that cost. Now, we've got additional revenue we anticipate coming. I don't think that will be an issue. I'd like to get people involved in fundraising, but what I don't want to do is not have the opportunity to make it happen. Yep. So I think that's something that I would really like for the facilities committee to potentially look at that and talk about with the history wall, with fundraising, with what we could do to make the student dream a reality, with the birds, right? I mean, the birds could be $1 a bird, right? We've got 600 graduates at this point, right? Like, not that I want graduates to pay for birds, but you know what I mean? Like, people could do it in honor of or whatever else. We could have business partners like get a little bit bigger bird and put theirs on the wall. Like, I think there's lots of things we could do to do that. I would love to be able to just say, all right, go for it. And then kind of make it happen on the funding side of it. I just think it's a really cool piece. When you walk in to the building, like that'll be the thing that you see just for scale. So that's a person standing underneath it. That is to scale. That is
Oh, that's big.
It's big.
I just realized that was the person.
Yeah. So that's a person standing underneath it. So it's a full story plus a few feet tall. Like large. Yeah.
That's how we find that money and the extra money.
Yeah. Found the money and dig it.
And in remembrance of them and connected to, I'm not making promises at all.
Yep.
But I don't mind taking that discussion to elected officials.
Yep.
Where they sometimes for certain things in the community may have or offer,
yep.
Even the city where they give.
And it, you know, maybe it's a combination fundraiser, right? Like maybe we just include this as a part of the recognition and we put it all together as a beautiful, like flowy space, right? Maybe we come in and we flow through to the space. I'm really passionate about it. I'm absolutely certain that we can find the support for the project. I'd really like to be able to give the go ahead so that it can get started.
So what do you mean that? I move we go for it.
Great.
I want to see if anyone else has any questions. And I think we'll fill in Rashonda as well and let her know. But I think for us, it means that we absolutely want to be working on fundraising with SJ and anything else and any other plans and making sure that we are meeting the minimum commitment of trying to make sure this doesn't fall in the school and that we still have the excess for whatever beyond that. I don't think anything we were planning was probably going to be on that scale. Maybe the wall is the biggest. But I just want to see if there are any other questions.
And I'm really jazzed about the whole concept, right? Like, yeah, but you know, about the whole concept of what that entire feeling might look like as we move into the history wall, right? Like what the whole thing might look like. So, okay.
I guess I'm just thinking that we've got fundraising in discussion on multiple fronts. I'm not naysaying, I'm just a bit more cautious about this expenditure. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel.
Is there a cost associated with the mural that you were talking about, the interior one on the backside of the districts?
There's not anticipated to be a cost on that.
Art apprenticeship doesn't.
Yeah, it's grant funded through all of that. So that hasn't been locked in. So that it's not a guarantee, but that one I'm pushing for student project, student experience, whether it's art apprenticeship or whether it's separate from or whatever, like that one I'm not anticipating there being a cost on that mural.
Well, I think if you have different, I'm seeing like there's been a lot of discussion about different parts of fundraising and doing things like that, but I think if you made it a joint effort and even gave tiers of giving, you know, you could do the bench, you could do part of the wall, you could do the birds, you could do whatever.
Mhm.
And say, these are your options. If you go to business, you can give them A, B, and C.
Layers of offers.
I am
Yeah.
for it. I am for it. This is the first project I think we've gotten a price on. And so it's like, okay, what are we going to be able to do? But I think also it's not as much as what else will we be able to do? It is exactly what you said. Moving on fundraising then, not waiting to see, you know, in a month or so, can we roll something out? Like our committee needs to be able to share information with you and get an approval and ask, can we post this out? Do we have visuals for this? So I think it just speeds up our timeline of making sure we do all the research we need to do. And
Now, I will say, if there's, I hear hesitation, if there's hesitation, we could eke until next month, but then we push potentially having it done by move-in. It doesn't mean it won't be, but there's a potential because other jobs will book in the interim. So, and if it does, it does, right? Like I totally support what the board needs to do. So if you don't feel confident in it yet as a board and you want to wait until October, if there's something else I need to get you or more information or the committee needs to discuss it, we could do it in October. It's just, I can't guarantee my spot in production.
And is this person, are they an independent sole proprietorship type of company? And there's not like just to make sure we eliminate any conflicts of interest between this person and a staff member or?
There's no conflict of interest that would be there. Yeah.
Well, I heard a motion and a second earlier, so I do think we need to take it to a vote.
Okay. But who was the motion second?
Neil and Amanda.
Okay.
Voted before we had more information from.
Oh.
She just said if there was a motion, we need to settle that motion one way or the other.
So the motion, yeah, would be that we're
Go for it.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay with extending up to $15,000, provided that we use whatever fundraising abilities we have to reduce or even eliminate that cost.
Before we take a vote, are there any more questions?
I will say this, I think it's not the idea or even the cost. It is making sure that we can implement maybe some of the additional things. So I think we are okay, or I would say I am okay with us working hard to make sure it doesn't fall on the school.
Mm-hmm.
But how much above that will come to the school is an unknown because we've never fundraised at that point. But I think it's just a tiny, I guess, I don't think we want to fail. That is, I mean, that I think that's what it comes down to. It's not that it won't get paid for, but we want to make sure that the burden doesn't fall on the school where it doesn't have to for some of the things we'd like to implement. And since we just started sharing ideas, it's like, okay, this is a great idea and a well thought out idea, but the rest of them kind of need to catch up so we know how much all of that costs. So that was my 2 cents.
Well, and to take the pressure off, the fundraising can go on longer than the bill. I mean, we can.
You can pay back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pay back.
Okay, all those in favor?
I was gonna say that, sorry.
Yeah.
The other thing I didn't think to mention is that there's just a deposit that's paid now. The rest of it comes when it's done. So there's not a large out-of-pocket expense now. It's essentially the initial part and kind of what is the first. She'll take that bottom ring and those 2 birds and mock it, like to build that actually. And so we'll be able to look at that and make sure that that all that looks good before she goes into kind of full production of that. So I think it's 40%. Yeah, it's 40% of that total cost. That's like a go do this and we'll pay you the rest when it's finished. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. But again, if the board is not ready for it, that's fine. We could do it in the October meeting and should still be okay to have it in. I just can't guarantee it.
This would be my question. So if we brought it back in October and we, I guess, agree in a sense now, just kind of timeline seems, we've never been here before, but if we're going to do it in October and you're still going to pay the deposit, there's not a lot of difference between us deciding now and then, except for us not getting production time now versus later. Like
It's not like we're waiting on new information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more
And that was
about
going to
the
be my other
strategy.
question is what would you like?
Oh,
Yeah.
so you were moving forward with doing the deposit.
No. So
That is my question.
yeah, I can't move forward with the deposit without you guys' permission because even 40% of 15,000 is above 4,000, right? So I can't move forward with that without the board saying yes, go forward. And honestly, I don't want to move forward with a $15,000 project, even though it's student inspired. It's part of the student. It's going to be the centerpiece. So it is a sole purchase artisan piece. So yeah. Yeah, well, because it is a custom artisan piece. So
We can defend that.
yes. Yeah, I mean, I've looked around for other people that will do custom artisan work designed by students with students involved in the process. And I haven't found anybody else that was willing to do that. Yeah. So I would definitely, I feel like I could defend sole source. Just in case you're running, it's the same person that helped with the lights underneath the bridge. So she was the artisan that did the lights under the bridge. Yeah.
Don't repaint it when you're done. Like the city did.
Where it all peels off. Anyway, so no, I would not move forward on any part of it unless the board says, yes, move forward on it. I am absolutely sold on the design. It's the closest thing we're going to get to what the students were dreaming of, that the students did, that the students presented, that the students walked through. So yes, I'm absolutely sold on the design. Yes, we need something in that center space. We can always add it later. It doesn't have to be in there when the building opens. But it is the student piece that is the center to walking into that. So if there's other questions I need to answer or other concerns, absolutely let me know what they are and I will get those answers and I will bring them to you at the next meeting. But no, I would not move forward unless the board says move forward.
Then maybe our community needs to meet before the next board meeting and work with SJ on the whole big picture fundraising project, not just this, so we have all the facts at the next board meeting.
I'll say I'm prepared to vote on this today, but I agree. No matter what today's vote is, we will need to meet again so we can have something concrete to present and maybe ideas illustrated in some way that we can begin asking for fundraising support soon.
Could we modify the motion then to just do for the deposit? Would that be a happy medium?
So my only thing about that is if I do the deposit, I don't want her to get started and not be able to finish her payment.
Got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. No,
Yeah.
Okay.
So it sounds like there's enough hesitation.
Well, let's
That we need to wait.
finish the vote.
Okay,
And then,
sorry.
Let's do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So-
just put it to the vote.
Any other questions for discussion? Let's just see how the vote plays out. All those in favor? I'm going for it. And opposed? Abstain.
Yes.
Okay, so for tonight, it passes, but I mean.
I agree that we'll have a conversation, but I think for me, what made my vote what it is this evening is that you've accepted that there's room in the budget to cover it. So we would like to be able to fundraise for everything. But if for some reason we are short one end or the other, there is support from the school to carry this and for us to continue the project work that we were talking about. So I think we just discuss maybe what our goals are on top of what we already know will be coming out. Right now, it feels like $50,000. We should just go get $50,000 and pay for everything.
I also think it's y'all's committee, but I think there's maybe a different constituency for sort of a marketing part of like an art thing and a historical remembrance of the community that you might be able to tap into different
Great.
people who support.
And you guys already have a meeting scheduled, right?
We do, although we met this month before we set our set date, we were not going to meet until after next. So we will have an impromptu meeting maybe next week. We'll inform Ms. Rashonda, but I do believe and in working in the chamber, a lot of what everyone has said is correct. There are a lot of businesses, grant opportunities, art programs, but that just means the research and legwork is a little bit more, I think, for the facilities committee to find who we can tap into and who we can bring into the process to make a commitment on some of the things that we would like to do. And I think, as I said, that's the scary part is we've never had the responsibility of fundraising for such a large project, but I can commit to doing my very best and know that if the 15 isn't there, it is covered.
Yeah. If you
So-
raise 2,500, it's 2,500 less than what that the district has to put up, right? If the facilities committee presents and the board prioritizes,
Yeah.
and you raise 2,500, and that first priority is to the remembrance, right? The historical wall, then the money goes there first, right? So,
Okay. Do I have a motion
to adjourn.
to adjourn?
I motion that we adjourn after such a wonderful meeting.
Yes, thank y'all for being so
Thank
engaged.
you.